Meeting to order. The start time is 7 p.m. Roll call.
O'Halloran?
Yes.
Strike?
Yes.
Hayes?
Here.
Garrettson?
Here.
Lopez Caniva?
Here.
Shaw?
Here. If we could stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our first agenda items this evening are to seat our new board member as well as seating our student board members. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a vote on each one and then they will administer the oath together. Is everyone okay with that? All right, perfect. Do I have a motion to approve? Yep. Do I have a motion to approve Paul Lencioni to fill the vacancy of the Board of Education?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. O'Halloran, second by Ms. Strite. Roll call.
Lopez Caniva?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
O'Halloran?
Yes.
Garrettson?
Yes.
Strike?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes. Now, do I have a motion to approve the selected student board members for the 2026-2027 school year? Board members Julia Mulls, Dayton Barrett, sorry. Finance and Facility Committee member and Curriculum Committee member Brett Alfaro, and then our finance, hang on, Brett's on, we're missing a name. So it's Brett is on the Curriculum Committee and Finance and Facilities is Tyler. Sorry.
Okay. No, I vote.
But you are, so.
Yeah, all right.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All right, and a second by Ms. Garrettson. All right, roll call.
Hayes?
Yes.
Garrettson?
Yes.
Lopez Caniva?
Yes.
O'Halloran?
Yes.
Strike?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes. Okay, if everyone could come up to recite the oath.
That's Shaw, you want to be up front?
Yep,
Yeah,
please.
that seems appropriate.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay, this is the longest oath you are ever going to have to take. I'm just going to pre-warn you. So what we'll do is I will start. Once it comes to the part where you say your name, we'll pause for a second. Everyone can say their name, and then we'll complete it all together. How does that sound? Okay. All right. Wait. Okay, here we go. I. Thank you. Good job. All right, now we'll continue it together. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Member of Board of Education of Lockport Township High School District 205 in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois to the best of my ability. I further swear that I shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of school district assets. I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek hearing before the board, while respecting the privacy of students and employees. I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual and that decisions can be made only by majority vote at a public board meeting. I shall abide by my majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels. As part of the Board of Education, I shall accept the responsibility for my role in the equitable and quality education of every student in the school district. I shall foster with the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, and set the course for Lockport High School. I shall assist in establishing a structure and environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework. I shall strive to ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement in all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law. I shall serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students and our community school to advance the vision for Lockport Township High School. And I shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school and district forward, fulfilling the vision for board that is created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development. Congratulations.
All right.
Ready? All right, well, you guys can take your seats at the table.
And Dayton, if you don't mind borrowing, you and Julia will be right at the end, right where you are. You might want to just pull those two microphones, you know, kind of over so they're in front of you and you can be. And just remembers the audience, Brett and Tyler serve on committees that meet periodically. Those are also public board meetings. For example, Tyler Montague has already served a committee meeting last August 10th. Last Monday night, and Brett will have an upcoming curriculum committee meeting. Again, these are public meetings, published board meetings that you can find on our website.
Okay, so at this time, we have no resolutions.
We do not. We do have a student presentation tonight,
Okay.
a recognition. I don't know, Dr. Shaw, if you want to do that student presentation. We included it underneath the resolutions.
Thank you.
Just as a student, we put it in with board salutes, so however you want to manage the agenda.
Yeah, I think we'll do the student presentation, board salutes, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. You are up.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
We can. Yeah,
okay.
just pull it just a little closer, just a little closer.
Okay, is that
We'll
better?
fully get you.
Yay. Okay, so my name's Amelia, and recently I was elected to be the expedition president of a month-long research trip to Antarctica. There was a total of 6 youth present and 90 adults. Next slide, please. Perfect. So we started here, of course, in America, and then we took a flight down to Buenos Aires, where we stayed there for a couple nights, before taking another flight down to Ushuaia, which is the southernmost town in the world, and it is in Argentina. In Ushuaia, we took a boat down to Antarctica. Next slide. Perfect. Okay. In Buenos Aires, we visited an old opera house that was turned into a bookstore. It was absolutely beautiful, and of course visited the Natural History Museum there. In Ushuaia, we hiked the Marshall Glacier hike and were able to see the town from above. And we also got to take part in the annual festival there, which was amazing because we got to bond with a lot of kids our age, which was really fun. And then from there, we boarded our expedition boat, which was called LTHS. Next slide, please. On LTHS, we were given a lot of lectures by super educated members or staff. There were so many lectures, I could not fit all of them onto this slide. But some of my favorites were ones about the seals, about the whales, and I also learned a lot about different kinds of sea ice. I did not know there were so many kinds of sea ice, but they come in fun names like pancake ice or brush ice, and it was really cool to learn. Next slide. Okay. On LTHS, we also boarded different vessels called Zodiacs. These were small inflatable boats that were able to take us into shallow waters that LTHS could not go. With these boats, we could also land onto different islands, which had historic research centers that had to be abandoned due to severe weather in the 1970s. They were perfectly preserved and were very cool to see how people lived back then. We also, of course, visited the penguin colonies, which were honestly my least favorite part of the trip because they were very, very smelly. Next slide, please. Of course, more of the Zodiacs. With these Zodiacs, we got to go exploring. So each time LTHS would go into the specific bay, it was called the Lazarus Bay. The staff would take the members on the Zodiacs and try to go as far south as possible. This time we were able to go so far south that we discovered 3 uncharted islands. So these islands have never been seen, never been stepped on, and of course were never included on a map. But I think I was the second person to step on this island here, and it has never been seen before. They will now be future charted on maps, but don't think they'll be named after me, sadly. We were able to go so far south due to climate change. As you can see in the picture with the screenshot of my GPS location, it shows that I'm on land where I was not. I was in the water, and this is because of climate change. The ice shelf is melting and retreating back really fast. Next slide, please. I was going down to Antarctica expecting it to just be black and white and maybe a little bit of blue, but the sunrises and sunsets are super colorful and were absolutely gorgeous and worth waking up early for. But my favorite scenery that I saw in Antarctica was what we call the blue Gatorade iceberg. Everything was white and there's just this one little blue glacier, and it was gorgeous. Next slide, please. We also saw, of course, a ton of wildlife. We saw seals, whales, different kinds of penguins, and my favorite was the orcas. They were gorgeous, and we saw them during the Drake Passage, which was actually a very smooth crossing. Next slide. Perfect. Some of my highlights of the trip were the polar plunge. So I went for a little swim in the Antarctic waters in between icebergs. It wasn't that cold because I couldn't feel anything. It was just numb. We also one of the first activities we got to do in Antarctica was kayaking. And I was holding up the Explorers Club flag in this photo, which is the group that we went down to Antarctica with. It was really cool. We saw our first whale there, which was my first whale sighting ever, so it was amazing. And we also broke a world record. The world record was how many people we can fit in the bridge of a ship. For those of you who don't know, a bridge is like a small part of the ship that the captain and his crew stay navigating and steering the boat. We fit 132 people up there. It was very warm, but we did break a world record, so that's amazing. And next slide. Okay, onto the whole important part of this trip and the whole reason we went down there, science. So the first thing we did to take part in the science was we converted a helicopter hangar into a scientific laboratory. Sadly, no helicopters on board. I was very disappointed. But once we converted the helicopter hangar, the scuba divers would dive under the ice and bring up echinoderms. Echinoderms are sea stars, brittle stars, sea urchins, so anything kind of small. And they would put them in buckets and bring them up back to the helicopter hangar, which is where the youth would organize them into buckets by species and then catalog them, which each number, so we could count how many species we had. After we would catalog them, we took DNA samples of every single sample. This is the job I had first, and it was very cool because I got to take a little DNA sample, put in a vial, and I felt like a true scientist. After the DNA samples, we take pictures of the specimens and then bag them for storage, and then they'd be flown back to Los Angeles Natural History Museum. In total, we collected over 1,000 plus samples and specimens. Next slide. Besides just the collecting for the Los Angeles Natural History Museum, there was also multiple different other science projects going on, including the radio wave science project, which they were trying to send low frequency radio waves as far as they could. They were aiming for Los Angeles, but they actually made it all the way to Sweden, and also discovered that if you point these radio waves at a fire alarm, it will go off, which they discovered the hard way. Another research project, which was slightly smaller than the rest of them, was the sponge research. So it's very similar to what the project I was involved in, like echinoderms, but it just focused on sponges and collecting how many types of sponges there were down there. And then another very impactful research project that went on was the microplastics research. Next slide, please. So the microfibers and microplastics was very impactful because even in Antarctica, there is so much pollution. There's so many treaties and protections for Antarctica, and yet plastic and so much trash still gets there. This picture here, I zoomed in as much as my phone camera could, but it is an emperor penguin with fishing line wrapped around its beak from fishing vessels that happens in Antarctica. And it's so sad because I was not expecting to see something you'd see here happen in Antarctica. Besides plastic, microfibers are the most abundant source pollution in Antarctica. They come from cruising vessels and ships, and honestly from all over the world that do their laundry, and then the exhaust that comes out of the laundry is a bunch of microfibers from clothes that we wash. Thankfully, solutions are being researched, including the most one that will possibly happen is putting more filters on cruising vessels. Cruise ships, I apologize. So microfibers stop getting into the water, stop getting into the fish, and stop getting into the food we eat. Next slide, please. Okay, to leave on a more positive note, I have a couple fun statistics for the trip. So everyone here that was on the trip completed 30 plus hours of science and service. Some of us did much more, depending how much sea creatures we could, handle. We did 18 Zodiac expeditions, so that was just cruising around and also landing at historic research sites. We had 30 plus lectures on the wildlife, glaciology, history, rock music, and much more. 1,000 plus, of course, of collected samples, a double amount of stinky penguins, 3 undiscovered islands, and 1 suspected new species to science, which was something that I was not expecting. So when we were down there, we possibly discovered a new species of brittle star. It is currently being confirmed in Los Angeles, but I'm very excited to hear because that is truly something you only get to do once in a lifetime. Next slide, please. But that is all. Thank you so much.
Spotlighting Amelia, Porter's doing great things. This is what she was doing with a month of school. A lot of people worked to make this happen for her and for her trip to have real science experience. I don't know if any board members have any questions.
So how do you intend on using what you learned on this trip in your future?
I learned that I really enjoy researching things and going new places. And in the future, I think I'd like to possibly lead a similar science expedition, but up to the North Pole instead of the South.
Very impressive.
Well,
Any
thank
other
you so much.
questions? Oh,
Oh,
of course.
do you-
Yeah, thanks
Any
so
other
much. Good
questions?
job.
No?
No, I don't have any questions, but I'll just say, I mean, a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
I mean, most people will never, ever step foot anywhere near there. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
kudos to you for going, and I'm glad you liked it. Very
Thank
cool.
you so much. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone.
Very
Well
cool.
done.
Well
Thank
done.
you.
Okay, on to board salutes.
I can go first.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you to every person who did apply for our vacancy on the board. It's a commitment, as we know. I described it to somebody recently as an aggressive hobby. Not quite a part-time job. It's not a full-time job, but it's an aggressive hobby. And so every person who did submit an application, I do appreciate them for that because it is important to serve our community in this way. So I do appreciate them.
Mhm.
And then, of course, I appreciate all the student board members for applying and now being on the board, looking exciting to a new year.
We'll go around the circle. I'll go ahead and go. I just wanted to give a nice shout out to all the architects, the facilities managers, everyone who played a part, the project managers over at Central. I was able to sit in on the construction meeting on Wednesday, and when you walked in, it wasn't quite ready. There were some things. And then driving past it on Sunday evening, it looked beautiful. All the hard work and behind the scenes, it's amazing the job they did. So thank you so much for all the hard work.
I want to echo that. I had some family members in town from out of town, and we drove past the building, I think it was last week or so, and they're like, when does school start? And I was like, oh, Monday. And they were like, no, it doesn't. And I was like, yes, it does. You watch.
Yes, again, I want to echo that. Thank you to Brian Ulmer, to all of your staff and to all of Bergling's construction. I mean, it was amazing, working, around the clock, getting it all ready for our students and the groundskeepers, here also at East. It was just amazing. But thank you. Thank you to all that.
I just want to thank the administration, the teachers, the staff for I came for Institute Day and it was just a wonderful experience, very, warm and welcoming environment for allowing me to speak and it was a special day for me just because I went to school here. So that was just really nice to address the staff and then being able to say hi to everyone for the school year. So good luck, everyone.
I'd like to thank the staff and admin for all their hard work, for getting things ready to go today. It was an excellent day. My daughter had lots of lovely things to say, meeting new staff, and just how much work goes into the first day of school is so incredible when you think about thousands of kids getting moved from point A to point B and getting them through a schedule for the day and then getting them back home safely. That is a incredible feat. And I am just really grateful for all the people, including our bus drivers, that were involved in making all of that happen today and having a good experience for our kids today.
Just to echo that, I'd like to thank all the teachers and admin that made the transition to the 8-period day very smooth today. I'm sure you're going to hear about it later, but all of the teachers did a fantastic job. So thank you.
Yes, to go off of that, I'd also like to take a moment to recognize all of the new porters, so the new teachers and staff. I was given the opportunity to meet all of these people and lead tours around East Campus, and I just wanted to salute them and their first official day at Lockport.
I'm gonna basically piggyback on all of that. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of events that happen before school, so it's a heavy lift for all levels of staff and administration, and I had the pleasure of participating in a number of those events. So I'm always amazed really at how everything starts to click and how it moves, and always just amazed at how school actually operates on a day-to-day basis, and time and effort and folks that are actually dedicated and happy to be here and all pulling in the same direction. So thanks so much. And then also a huge thanks to the central group specifically. I, like you, had attended a couple of those, and it was a construction site, and now it's not so much anymore. So it's a really great effort, and to see the construction team sit around the table and talk about things and know that they've got a really good rapport when they work together makes a world of wonders to make a project go so well. So thanks to everyone, and have a great year.
Okay.
I just wanted to recognize the staff and the admin for the welcome back days. This was my 5th welcome back day that I went to, and it's always very organized, and there's never long lines, and it's not crowded. The kids get through quick, and we get through quick. It's well handled, and luckily this year we did not stop at the counselors, but in the past we've had to go to the center there with the counselors, and the counselors have always been excellent and very helpful. And we had a bit of a thing last year, which was in and out, and they could have certainly been like, oh no, here come the Lencioni's again, but they weren't, and they were very helpful. And yeah, they've all 5 times we've gone, it's been excellent.
Nice.
Agreed.
Any additional board salutes? Okay. So with the board's permission, I would like to reorganize the agenda just a little bit. So there just has been, obviously, we have a lot of community members here, and we can't wait to hear what they have to say, but there's been a lot that's happened from last week up until today, and a lot of new information that's come out over the weekend. So I think that what I would like to do is move the superintendent's report to now, just so that Dr. McBride can kind of go through the information that's been presented. Any opposition to that?
No, that's fine.
You just have to take a vote.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. O'Halloran, second by Ms. Garrettson, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, great. A couple things, I can't top those board, for sure I can't top those board salutes, right? But a few salutes for board members, here first, the student board members, obviously, stepping up, being part of the process, learning what this kind of thing is, for, the rest of your life, how public organization functions and how you function in the adult world. A lot like the presentation that we just had, Mr. Lencioni. I agree with Mrs. Hayes. Anybody who steps up to board work, I think it's one of the most consequential things that you can do. I used the phrase last week, goat rodeo. People enjoyed that. Now I'm going to use rip off from you, aggressive hobby, because it is a very, very challenging job. To be a volunteer. It's one of the rare elected positions where people volunteer. Appreciate Mrs. O'Halloran and Mrs. Garrettson, both of who were able to come to construction meetings. You learned so much at Central, about those things. So just being in them, there's no substitute for, being in the chair. And I just appreciate you giving us a lot of time that you can't get back. I thought you, Dr. Shaw, did an exceptional job just opening up the school year. Very heartfelt, very eloquent. I think that's so important to bring that, you know. And one of the things for board members is staff members like to see you. They appreciate you. I think they appreciate the volunteerism that you bring to things. So really a great job, board. You know, board salute for all of you. You know, and the hard work that you put in. Tonight in my superintendent report, just a couple of things that we'll push forward. I thought today was a great day. I'm going to let the principals talk about their experiences because they, you know, obviously were in the building, but it might have been you, Mrs. Strite, who's just, you know, you're a teacher, Mrs. O'Halloran is a teacher, Dr. Shaw, you're a teacher. You know how much goes into opening up school. And it is incredible, all the behind the scenes work that takes place. We have bus mechanics, we've got custodians, some of our staff in operations, they had damaged homes last week. When they might have been thinking, I need to take a personal day to take care of my home, they were here till 11:30 at night. You know, that's really amazing. Couple things, we've got a number of things. Just, we had challenges of extreme weather over the summer. I think many people in the audience are probably aware of that as well. Last week was a difficult week, probably all the more so getting school open. We had to shut our construction site down twice. We had to shelter in place for the 4th time on Tuesday. Anybody who was in that storm knows how bad it was. So despite those weather setbacks, we really made it. So a really great opening of the school year. There are a couple things in the action item section that I want to highlight you can't see right now. I'll probably jump right, you know, put the accent on the solar project. Our architects from White are here, that when we get to those approvals, we certainly can weigh in on them. And then the tentative budget. And I place those like that because they all have an interconnection with each other in terms of the work that we do with facilities and finance. So let me get into the solar project first. We have board member questions. I want to jump into those and then some illustrations. And I'll pass the answers out because sometimes you just don't have a chance to get to your computers. Overall, I want to give the audience and just a reminder of sort of what led us. In 2024, right here, May 2024, your meeting, you approved a resolution, and that resolution directed the administration, directed me as your superintendent to do 3 things. The first was an essential maintenance plan at Central Campus. You had made that decision. You wanted to move forward with that, and really, we do have some work next summer that we just have to wrap up. But for the most part, those major operations, that essential maintenance plan, roof, electrical, masonry, is almost there. Some work that we have to do next summer. The second thing was you commissioned a 10-year facility master plan because you also want an analysis of East as well as Central, the transport center. And last, I believe it was February, I apologize if it was March, you approved a 10-year facility master plan. We're moving into that. Many of the things on the list this summer we began tonight is about some programming and designing for that. The third is you asked us to seek alternative revenue streams. Public schools have very, very limited ability to seek alternative revenue that is not tax or federal or state grants. You know, we're not a corporation. We can't increase production. We're not Lake Park High School, which every 2 years they have an alternative stream. The PGA rents out. They can count because they're so close to Medina, rents out an entire campus, and they know every 2 years they're going to get a revenue stream that is tax neutral. So when you impaneled that, one of the things that is most common is energy savings. Anything that you can do to cut your energy costs. And right now, most common for public schools is solar power. We work with the board. We had a presentation in May 2024. We sort of, you might remember, May 14th, we had a kind of a fair. Our architects were here. Forefront Power was here. We kind of put out all the options that we would be looking at. And we first pursued solar at our property at Cedar Road and 159th with the Village of Homer Glen. And one very important thing I think for everybody to remember is that whenever you're going to modify a property, now you have to involve your municipal partners because municipal partners zone, properties. For example, this is zoned, and it's typical for schools to be zoned residential because they're typically in residential areas. That farm field is zoned slightly different, but you have to come alongside a village or a city because in their zoning ordinances, they have a whole process of analyzing the proposed project, of surveying nearby neighbors, of having public hearings. So that's an important piece. We began that process. It didn't go very far in Homer Glen. It became pretty clear that from a municipal standpoint, the village was just not going to be able to come along, alongside us. And that is when we switched to, where else could we put solar? And we started looking at the open green space behind us. And I think the important thing for everyone to remember is that you're in a process of conversation, right? In a process with a provider like Forefront Power, you're in a process with the board, you're working with representatives. You can't go anywhere without a lot of work to go because any company that might do an accessory installation like that has to do geo-sounding, title search, structural components out there, measurements, tons, and then you have to come alongside of, in this case, it would be the city of Lockport, right? You have some serious zoning work, So that's the context. You might recall last, and the way that we communicate that to the public is with agendas like this, public agendas where all of our materials are on display. You might remember Finance and Facility Committee members, we were here last Monday night, and Forefront Power made a presentation. What would be on the table tonight would be your thumbs up to begin even more of a process, typically that lasts 12 to 14 months in any kind of project because you have all of that work to do. So specifically, you asked some questions that we've been working on, and I have a couple things I want to open up here. I think it's this I want to get to. It is. So what I want to do is, just in case, as a if you could, Mrs. Strite, help me out this direction, and then Mrs. Maxwell that direction. These are the questions that you asked earlier today, and I want to, some of them are known and some of them are unknown, really, to be honest. And just a couple in no particular order that I thought would be important and germane because citizens have asked them, you've asked them. One is something that I think as a community that we might possibly, and I'm only saying might possibly, I think is an urban myth to the best of our research. We're probably about 8 to 10 hours into researching this. This is one of our board books. We have a ton of these. They memorialize everything that's happened with the board. But we've seen out there a belief that property behind us was somehow donated with covenants and restrictions on it. We can find zero evidence of that. As a matter of fact, we have a list of all the deeds that the district owns. The district clearly owns this piece of property all the way to Division and Farrell, very clearly. As a matter of fact, at one point, the district was leasing to a farmer who was there was an apple orchard, had purchased the apple orchard. There's a lease agreement here where the district was leasing that property and allowed the farmer to continue leasing. So I think it's really important. I have no idea where this came from, but it's a piece of history that I would recommend the community doesn't kind of continue. We don't believe, based on all of our research and all the documents that and there's just so many of them to go through, this is clearly a single pin piece of property that the district bought in 3 chunks and owns outright. So it is school district land, zoned residential 1. So I think that's just important because we heard that so often. One of the more important things to pay attention, I just would say, for future facilities out there, and this is important, especially if there are people, from the neighborhood. I know Mr. Cronholm is the most substantial issue back there has been a civil engineering issue with water runoff. And you can see this in action if any time it rains, there's a retention pond right over here, and that takes the water from Porter Stadium, and it'll fill up immediately. 1997, there were additions on this building, large additions, the field house where we are right now, the auditorium, And the spoils from digging that out were dumped behind in that property. And that created, in 1998, what was believed to be some very serious water runoff issues into the neighborhood that were eventually addressed by regrading and doing some civil engineering work out there. I think just everybody should keep that in mind, because what that does is it presents a really interesting and curious, position for the district and the community if you ever want a hardscape out there with a parking lot, with a new building. It's just an issue that would always has to be dealt with, right? So that's a little bit about the land. A second question that came to us is, why not solar on a roof? And that's a really astute and excellent question, because oftentimes solar power is oftentimes located on a roof. And I just want to show East Campus here. And I think an adjacent question to that is, why solar power at all? Well, the reason why is this is actually your effort. You directed us to do this in order to generate revenue, alternative revenue, that in turn could generate credit. But it wouldn't be credit, it wouldn't be bonds that taxpayers would have to pay the interest and principal on. That was the whole idea. Very, very standard thing in Illinois, across the United States. Energy savings can show a lending institution that you have a steady stream, and you can make a loan payment that is neutral to the taxpayers. And because you can make that loan payment, you can get 20 to 30 years worth of bond power to go into your 10-year facility master plan. So that was really the idea. Actually, behind this, a lot of people said, oh, this is green technology. It's really only green in the money sense, right, in the dollar sense. But if you look at this roof, it kind of proposes, speaking of green, really only the green section right in the middle, that is the most recently re-roofed. We know that is stable, that's new, it's probably about a 20-year life. It's not a very large area to put solar panels. Every other area, and the reason why you see it broken up like that is it's not unusual for large public high schools to roof in stages as just a money-saving proposition. So we move it around and we roof and we re-roof, and it seems like we're always in the roofing business. On your facility master plan, you can see that we're roofing for about the next 8 years in order to contain costs. Really. The reason why that's important is if you put solar panels up there and you're re-roofing, you're installing them, you're pulling them off. You're installing them, you're pulling them off. It can cause deck damage. It can be very, very expensive. The expense can work against actually what you're trying to do is generate revenue, lower energy costs. So this roof is very, very difficult to put solar panels on, just because the sections, for example, in orange are all slated to be re-roofed, right? And then we're going to come back around to other sections. Right now, the only building that entirely the deck is solid, its age, it's been redone, is at Central. It's all brand new deck, all brand new roof. But then you have to ask yourself a question: do you want to, put roof accessories here in Northern Illinois where you have freezing, you have rain, you have snow, after you just did the masonry too. Water infiltration is really difficult for these big buildings. So that was the work that we did with roofing. It's an astute question, but we don't really see roofs as a solution for you in this particular case. Any questions about that? Let me just pause because I've shared a lot. Usually that's only in public comment. Thanks.
I had a question. So in the green areas, even if we were to put solar panels on there, let's say in 15 to 20 years when those come around and have to be re-roofed, would we have to then remove those panels?
Yeah, and you would have to remove them because you can't. Any accessories on the roof, vents, all have to kind of come out, when the roof is re-roofed and be reinstalled.
So regardless, it would kind of be like a continuous cycle of installation in a way?
Right. You'd be installing, pulling it out, installing, pulling it out, right, to make it simple.
I guess I have a question. If we were going to do a roof project, the panels would ideally be smaller. I mean, it's my understanding there are some grants out there where we could purchase the panels and get them up there, so then we would be actually benefiting more dollar-wise because we'd actually own the panels.
Well, well, you would have to do the capital outlay for that, so that's an upfront expense.
Okay.
And then I would say that the board would still face this issue on your roofs
Okay.
of roofing and re-roofing, installing and reinstalling. In my mind, I think, talking to Mr. Amer, if you'd like to join us, would add to your expense significantly and would really marginalize any energy savings you have. You would probably be putting your energy savings into that process.
Yeah, that's a strategy. You're going to pay a large upfront cost. The solar energy renewable credits for that are constantly changing, and they've recently been going backwards, so they're not as many available. But you could do that, but you're taking out a loan and then paying interest on that loan and seeing if you can make those work. So it is a strategy, but this process does require no upfront money.
Okay. I mean, it's just, it is a little bit difficult to compare when we have a scale where we're gonna make some money, but yet, like if we talk about another part of the project or a different type of same project, we don't really know what that, it's gonna be more, or you're gonna have these costs, but we don't really know what the costs are. It's a little difficult. It makes it uneasy when you're trying to make decisions that.
Yeah, ground solar is the same as if you engage a company like we worked with Forefront Power.
Okay.
They own the solar, the benefit is they own the solar panels, they put them in, they take them out. Right. They're responsible for the installation. They own them. So when it's time for them to be removed, there are like all contracts, codicils. If, in this particular case, one question was, 5 years on solar is how long you for sure want to have it installed, because that's when the IRS tax incentives really become solid for you.
Gotcha.
If you got out of the agreement sooner, then you have stiff IRS penalties. That's agnostic of whatever company that you work with. Beyond 5 years, there's a process like in all contracts we have to terminate the contract, right? But really what it gets down to, I think the advantage, Mrs. Hayes, is that they own the equipment. You're not saddled with the equipment, because if you have it, just like there's equipment we sometimes bring to you to dispose of, you have to find the way of disposing it. Right. Adjacent to that are, two issues. Environmental use. There was a question about environmental impact. Typically, ground mounted have very low environmental impact, right? In this case, they're not hardscaped, right? There's no cooling water that's being used on them. They've got a low to the ground profile, and an agreement like this, the end of life solar panels is exclusively the responsibility of Forefront Power. So they're taken away. They're just not left there, where that could be a concern. Also we had questions about like using carports. A lot of people see that in the Southwest, very viable. But again, those are extremely expensive construction. You would be building that as opposed to building something else. So that just gets a choice that the board made. Mr. Amer and I, we believe that would eat away at your margin of savings. And it wouldn't make it very profitable. There was a good question speaking about profitable. Our estimate from Forefront Power on that ground solar is about $250,000 to $300,000 a year of generated savings. You would take that, you would turn to a lending institution, say, if we made a payment of that much, how much credit could we get? And then you could use that credit to deal with a project. That is true that if you look at like our budget tonight, $250,000 to $300,000 a year is not a substantial amount, but being able to make those loan payments can knock out a pretty major project without a taxpayer impact. That was really the idea. The idea behind that. I think I already dealt with some of the loan things. I do want to mention, just so everyone knows how lengthy these processes are. If you gave the green light tonight, really what you're giving the green light to are things like due diligence that Forefront Power would have to do. They would have to do a title search on the property, right? And we think we have that information, but they would have to engage a title company properly to do that. They would have to they'd have to broker an interconnection agreement with ComEd. They'd have to do a geotechnical ground report. They would have to do another survey of the property and its lines. And then you have to engage a really important partner, and that's the city of Lockport, that has a whole zoning ordinance. It's probably what Mrs. Strite hears the most about. Municipal government does tons with zoning. And there's a whole process of community engagement and public hearings and surveys and looking at a concept plan that really stretches that out. So even if the board decided anything tonight, you're looking at a really long flight path that is all part of a public process to make a good decision as a community. That's really the idea. I think I mentioned early termination fees. Those are fairly typical in solar. It just happens to be because the IRS tax incentives any solar project, roof or ground mount, you would not want to exit within 5 years, because you would have IRS tax penalties on that. They want you get those upfront tax incentives because they want you to stay with the project. And then there's a concern. We did some research. There's differing opinions about property value impact. You'll have as many people say that there's high property value impact, solar ground installation near a home. Others that will say, if properly installed, to scale size, good offset from homes with good greenery and shading, which is oftentimes required. Municipal partner like the city would require that. We would want that because of beautification. That there's a negligible, property value impact. So there's as much that we found supporting that can have a property value impact, as much as we found that said that it was negligible. Let me just pause on all those points. And I'm kind of going from the answers that we provided. These are all your questions, and I'm only trying to be timely.
I wonder if either of you could speak about a little bit about some of the other solar projects that are around our neighborhood, our neighbors or in Illinois, and maybe speak to what you may or might know about those installations. Some are ground, some are roof. I know you're not intimately aware of like the schematics of those buildings and that type of thing.
Yeah, I think probably the best example in Illinois, and I would be school specific, is Huntley Community High School. It's a very large solar field, close to a residential area, close to Huntley High School. Forefront Power did. It's probably one of the largest school sites, and operates very similar to this, right? But obviously it's a different community, located in a different site, different history, but has been successful in creating energy savings for Huntley Community High School and its districts as K through 12 district, and then using those for building projects. A lot of what I'd say, Mrs. Garrettson, for example, here in Lockport, I think it's 100 acres. You might know, that might be inaccurate, Mrs. Strite, but that is a very different solar project here in Lockport, because that's in a disused industrial area, right? So not for school purpose, disused industrial area. Hard to be comparable. It'd be, you really couldn't compare that.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
So the savings there, the location there, the zoning process there, it just isn't, I don't think comparable.
So solar projects are really site specific.
Site and use
use-
specific,
okay.
right?
Does Huntley have residents as close as we would?
It's been a while since I've been to that site, Mrs. Hayes, but I'd have to be back out there to really, to really see it. My memory is it's in some pretty newly developed areas, right? Huntley's built like Plainfield,
Okay.
right? Very similar. Now, one other piece, I just want to make sure, I think I got all the board member questions to be timely.
Yeah.
And I really do. I hope some folks here sign up for public comment, because that adds quite a bit, to the conversation. Because there's one other piece of research that we did, and that is with the zoning and the ordinances with the city, right? Because it's a very, any developer knows, it's a process. You can't just come in and say, I want to build a development and it starts happening the next day, right? That's just not the way that it is. We spent quite a bit of time with the city. We, talked to the city, and don't find that the city is ready to engage in a process that lengthy and that involved, because there'd be serious rezoning that would have to happen. The city itself would also have to make a huge investment of time and money into a rezoning process with us. And they're a very valuable partner. You can't do this kind of work without them. And I don't believe that the city is ready to be a partner with us on that. And I think that puts a real impediment in your place. I think the important thing that you're doing is you're seeking out ways to have alternative revenue, to create tax relief. But at least with that really important partner, I don't think you have that partnership, that the city's ready to do that. I think that gives you a very important, in addition to the feedback you've gotten, the concerns about the green space, all of that, kind of comes into play. What I would ultimately recommend is that you table this issue. And here's the main reason why I recommend you table it, not to go against your resolution to seek alternative revenue. You have a very busy year ahead of you. You have concerns, the city not ready in that position, but your agenda is fairly heavy. And I would probably, my recommendation as superintendent would be to table it, put it in a parking lot, and I don't know if it would ever come back. Maybe someday, maybe the technology would be different, maybe the footprint would be different, maybe our roofs would be in shape for solar, maybe you, a different board, a different superintendent would feel that Central is a good bet. I just don't think any of those things are in place right now. There's just too many unknowns, as Mrs. O'Halloran and I discussed about. And whenever you come to a situation like that, I think it's best to just, put the pause button on it for a time when all those things are clearer. There's just a lot of variables out there that could appear. That would be my recommendation on your agenda tonight.
President Shaw, as chairman of the Finance Committee, I think in light of everything that Dr. McBride has spoken about, I think I'd like to make a motion to table the forefront issue until a different time or indefinitely, but for a different time.
No, you can take that motion right now if you wanted to. And I would only encourage board members, you would vote to table it, but what I would say to you is you would be really parking it for a long time. I think, you've had concerned community members. The city has really indicated how much work would have to be done. You have a heavy agenda this year. I just don't see it coming back around until some of all those issues, and you can already see, we just named so many different issues. There would have to be some clarity, on those issues.
Just to clarify, so the $250,000 or $300,000, whatever it might be, that's not the money we would be spending for improvements. That basically is proof of income for a much larger amount of money that we can get from lending institution to then put forward to do improvements.
Right, that exactly, Mr. Lencioni. It's proving to a lending institution, we do bonds, banks bid on that. When banks bid on bonds, they want to know what's our funding source, just like you and I, if we take out a loan, to pay that loan. And so if you can show that you're going to have energy savings and that's going to generate a principal and interest payment, then that's going to generate X amount of bonding power. That's the idea, to demonstrate that, hey, in an annual year we spend X amount, we're going to cut that in half and we're going to reallocate that money. That's what you're showing a lending institution.
Was this averaged into anything like projected to pay for something?
Well, we have a 10-year facility master plan, so it would have to be
specifically on the plan, was it?
Yeah, we've really sort of, kind of disciplined ourselves to that plan. I mean, obviously you're the board, you could say, go off that plan and you have an idea. I would encourage you to stick with the projects on your plan that you've articulated to the community. And then also you'd have to see what lending institutions what kind of credit would be generated. That process is an entirely different process in and of itself, right? You couldn't even engage that conversation about alternative revenue bonds until you really have a project, whatever that alternative revenue source is, it's about to happen, right? This seems a very, very, very far horizon. So isn't going to generate alternative revenue bonds for you in the near future. That doesn't mean you don't have general obligation bonds, life safety bonds. Life safety bonds are the way that most schools pursue facilities improvements if you're going to do debt, right? Our architects help with that. So all of those options are still there, right?
But you were asking, and I'm not sure. Were you asking the projects that we have at hand right now, are any of them relying on this? And the answer
yeah.
is no.
No.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
not the ones right now, but
future.
the end of the 10 years, were we factoring it in? Were we thinking this is going to be
Yeah, there's
revenue that we'll have?
Yeah, there isn't anything we're per se relying on, but what we've always said with that 10-year, facility master plan is it's good to have a 10-year plan, but it likely has a 5-year life. Why? Financing changes, conditions change, new needs that we didn't even anticipate pop up. Boards might have to be flexible, right? With things that you didn't imagine. Costs can go up. Another board might say, "Oh, we've used a lot of life safety bonding. We're good now. We don't want to take any more life safety bonds out. We don't want to use any more fund balances. We're going to pump the brakes," right? So all of that is flexible. So there isn't anything that is relying on this. It's just a strategy at every turn. Like the board has done a debt service abatement for the past 3 years to lower the burden on taxpayers. Just another way to get facilities work done while, not turning that over to taxpayers as much as you can. Ultimately, life safety bonds do require current and future taxpayers to pay the principal and interest, ultimately, right? But it's just a strategy to, just like in our own homes with the mortgage, stretch that payment out in a more affordable way.
So my other question is, if we say no to this project or we table it, it doesn't mean that you stop seeking out new opportunities for new revenue, correct?
No, unless the board directs us to do that. But I would say it's a really good question, Mrs. Stride. The avenues for that are few. To be 100% realistic, even right now sitting in this seat, I can't imagine what other avenue there is. I don't know about you, Mr. Ammer, but they're really just in the state of Illinois, the way things are constructed, to get a stream that's really going to help you. Energy saving is probably the most effective tool. There just aren't a lot of other tools. There are some tools, many of them I don't recommend. For example, we've frozen our student fees for a very long time. Just recently raised them, barely. Some districts have done everything a la carte, right? Everything is paid for. You want to be in a sport, it's paid for separately. An activity, it's paid for separately. You buy that Chromebook, not the district. Here's a textbook fee. You buy all your books. I know that. I live in a school district like that. I don't recommend that. I think we have something, one fee, and that gives you access to everything. I think that's, very appropriate in a community where a public school and people are funding, us with tax money. That is one alternative revenue stream that school districts have used. It's not one that I recommend. So we're limited,
So my other question is, if our option is that we can table this for a certain amount of time, if we also say as a board, I was not here in 24 when we were charged to look for this, but the whole goal of all of this was to be exploratory. It didn't mean that when you came back that these would be definitive answers. It's just exploring. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
So the question then is, if we, as a board, after looking at all of this and knowing that the city as precedent has never switched from residential to an industrial usage, then is it worth us moving past that and saying, it's not just that we're tabling it, we're here to say, this isn't probably going to be a good idea. So we could say, we choose not to explore this any further. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I think that's really a conversation that you have to have as a board, a decision you would have to make. You know, on any vote, you can vote yes, you can table it, or you can vote no. I think, you know, you have to make that decision. You know, we just need some direction.
So the motion to the board right now is to table it indefinitely. Granted, we don't know when it would come back up. Technology could change. They could change the size of solar panels to where they turn, you know, 20 years from now, they could be something different, but this is something the board can revisit at that time. So I have a motion on out there to table it indefinitely. I would need a second, and then we could take a vote.
But what you're asking,
Can you make a
Wendy,
motion? Go ahead.
you're asking if we can just vote on it without tabling it, am I correct? Okay. And so how do we play that? At somebody's motion, do we?
I have a quick question. So if we table it, like Dr. McBride said, it could come back, things could change. You said things could change. The proposal right now is on that property, which I will say, I have a hard time with the 20 years. I understand 5 years before you really start to see a savings or start to see your money back, but 20 years on a piece of property that's a long time. That's a lot longer than our terms. And so if this particular proposal is on the property, if it gets tabled and somebody has to bring it forward. I do know a member has to bring it forward, correct? A board member has to bring it forward. Would that, if we table it and it's brought forward because, like you said, they got smaller, we could put it on the roof, or we're gonna change it, it can morph that way, or do we have to say no to this because we don't want it on the ground, or, you know?
So if the motion is brought forward and it is tabled, it would have to be a board member on the winning side of the vote to bring it back.
And you use a committee structure, for example, you know, last Monday, you know, we brought this to committee. That's usually, hey, committee decides whether it's going to get out of committee or not, and gets to this table. And the committee decided to bring it to this table because they have, bless you, have exactly this broader conversation, right? So I would recommend that. I would recommend committee structure. So it's really the committee that decides whether it advances to the agenda or not. And that is what I would recommend procedurally, just in the future. If you're going to bring roof solar, central solar, carport solar behind East Campus, that would be the appropriate, you know, venues, right? To re-engage, you know, the issue. But you would have to go through that process to re-engage it.
But but just correct me, so you're asking about the specific project and the property, yeah, the location of it, but that's not to say that this specific agenda item can't morph into what you're recommending is to something different. So it could be reproposed as something else.
Okay. I think that's.
And then it has to go through all the scrutiny that we have right here, right in front of us.
Right.
You know?
I'm glad you asked that question, Tammy, because I think that's part of where I have a problem with it is the location. I think that the solar energy is a great way to find resources and an income source. The location seems very close to residential. And I think that is something that when they bought those houses there, that's not something they thought was going to be in their backyard. And putting it there for 20 years seems a long time for me. But I think that if it's something we tabled and it could be brought back in a different form, and it's a possibility, that's different. I think that would be acceptable.
Right. For example, we mentioned that over in the south end of the Farrell parking lot, there's about a 3 acre, maybe 4 acre parcel of land, much smaller, very postage size, right? It's very offset from residential. It's really almost more part of the parking lot. Someday you might have a technology that you want to put in there. You'd have to trim that tree line, I think, in some way. On a much smaller parcel of land that's far offset from anything residential and be much smaller, right? Some future board might engage that. That might be a treatment, right?
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I can second that, to table it.
Okay, so motion by Ms. Garrettson, second by Ms. Lopez Caniva. You ready for roll call? Okay.
Gertson,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
Strite,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
and Shaw.
Yes. Okay, the motion's been tabled, or the action item's been tabled.
And that's really the end of my superintendent report. We will continue looking at alternative sources, right? If things come our way. I just want to be clear with the board that you have a heavy agenda of other things, right? And we're really going to invest ourselves in those other items that you have to get to this year,
Okay.
right? And I just want to doesn't mean we're not going to look for alternative funding, but realistically, we sort of run out of space to put if it's not our roofs, it's really Cedar Road or behind here. And if we're tabling that, I just don't want anyone to think that we're not following your directive. Right.
For sure.
Okay, that is my superintendent report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, student board reports.
All right. I just wanted to start by talking about how things went before the school year started. So as I was saying earlier, I was given the opportunity to volunteer both at Welcome Back Days as well as the new teacher induction. As for Welcome Back Days, like you all were saying, everything ran very smoothly. And again, I would like to recognize all of the staff and student volunteers who made that possible. And as a student, I remember going through the process very smoothly and easily, and my counselors especially being very understanding with that. So I would also like to commend them as well. As for the new teacher inductions, I was able to help them tour East Campus and get familiar with the building. There have been a lot of new changes that I discovered before I started the school year. Like, for example, the counseling office has been changed. Things like student services has been shifted around. And I think it's important to familiarize students with that idea as well. But other than that, I am excited to see what our new staff members and teachers have to bring to our community. And I'm going to pass it over to Dayton now.
Thank you, Julia. Today, just going into the actual school day, we have an 8-period day, which is brand new for a lot of us, even though we did it freshman year. And it was kind of hard to gauge the length of the day today, judging as it was late start. But I heard a lot of mixed feelings about it. Some people are upset that they have to take an extra class. A lot of people, like myself, are very happy we get to take an extra class. So I think we're gonna be hearing a lot about that throughout the school year, especially as we go into non-late start days. And then aside from that, we had some new porter pets in the building. I saw we had the new dogs with the police. They were pretty. That was pretty. I kind of forgot that they were gonna be here this morning when I walked in, and I was like, wow, that's a dog, all right. So just this new school year kicking off to a great start already, and I'm excited to see what we have next.
Great. So the first day was good?
Yeah, I think so, 100%.
Okay.
And I think a lot of
That's
other
good.
students thought it was great too.
Right. Any questions for our student board members? I will say, when I walked, it's hard not to want to pet the dogs when you walk in. And the handlers love their dogs, and it's definitely obvious. So, all right, AFT report.
And just for the audience and the people at home, these are safety dog teams that you would see you'd see them at Midway, O'Hare, you'd see them big, large events. Their portfolio highly trained, keeping large public places safe is basically their portfolio.
Hello, everyone. Katie Kishline, Union President. Good to be back. First day, keeping me up way past my bedtime for the first school night, but that's okay because there's a lot of people I'd like to thank. First being our office professionals who did help make those welcome back days. We wouldn't be able to do it without them. Next, just a shout out to Christine Mildice, Frankie Hatley, and Dr. Greenan for bringing on 31 new staff members. That's not an easy job. So thank you. I know that the new teachers do feel welcomed and well-fed, so that's good. But last not least, maintenance, grounds, and custodial. Through the storms, through the construction, literally I could see my reflection in the hallway as I was coming to set up my classroom. So it is an amazing place to work, and with everything, you guys didn't miss a beat, so thank you. I know you guys have worked extra hard. So also, first home Friday night football game is this Friday, so I hope to see everybody there. Thanks.
Go Porters.
Thank you. Okay, IASB report?
We really don't have a ISB report with resignation of Ms. Johnson. I believe our new delegate is Mrs. Garrettson. So congratulations, Mrs. Garrettson, as the alternate. You will have some duties and chores coming up shortly.
Foundation board report?
Good evening. I'll do super quick because it's 8 o'clock. Just wanted to highlight that we already have 2 new scholarships from the community for this coming school year, which is, you know, it's always great to be a community that knows that people are hoping to invest in the schools in this way. So I'm always grateful when someone steps forward with that. We have Young Hearts for Life coming up in September. It's something I'm very proud of that Dr. McBride helped bring to Lockport Township High School. Every year, we highlight 1 or more students that need additional medical care because they get screened in this way. It's just a quick EKG screening that we offer all of our students. It's free to the students. It's not free to the foundation, but we're very proud to do it. And looking for volunteers if anyone wants to help. It's a great, very busy day, but just to know that we're spending that money and kids' lives are saved, there's no better way to spend it. Other than that.
And I would recommend if any board member has the opportunity to volunteer, I've volunteered the past 2 times it's come. I know Ms. Garrettson volunteered this past year.
I did already.
What?
Oh, I did
Okay.
already. This for this year.
It's very rewarding, and it's just, I mean, when you hear the stories of like the students' lives that are saved through this, you know, it just makes you feel good.
And just for the public, you know, almost everyone here has probably seen, usually in any school year, you hear 3 or 4 news reports, even here locally, of a young person who had sudden cardiac arrest and lost her life. And generally that's hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, completely preventable, completely detectable by an EKG, but not usually done. And Young Hearts for Life has made its mission to offer free, you know, sensitive, private EKGs. We don't have the medical information. It's a medical provider, but it literally can save lives. And generally every year we, in our student population, have about 10 students who have something they need to have dealt with. They just didn't know. And at the wrong moment, that could be catastrophic for them. Most people grow out of that. Some it can be life-threatening. So it really is a matter of life and death. You know, so folks out there, if people can support that, volunteer for it, you're literally saving lives.
Right, and students also have the opportunity to volunteer with Young Hearts for Life. I remember I did it my sophomore year, and I just wanted to say that even all the volunteers made me feel very safe and comfortable, and I feel like a lot of students are, you know, dissuaded by doing the ECG screening just because it can be uncomfortable, but I feel like that 30 seconds of discomfort is definitely worth, you know, a lifetime of medical treatment. So I'm a big advocate for Young Hearts for Life, and I'm very grateful we have this opportunity, so thank you.
And I did see, I saw a community member question at one point, I can't remember where I saw it, but it's offered here at East, okay, every other year. So freshmen, although they can't participate this year, they will in 2 years when they're juniors.
Correct. The goal is that every student has the opportunity to be screened 1 time while they're at Lockport Township High School.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Legislative report.
I've already shared a lot. The legislators in recess, so this is a time of year where there's a lot of conversation with legislators, people who are in elected positions. July 22nd, I attended a roundtable with Senator Capel, Natalie Manley, Representative, and Representative Avalar. July 27th, Homer 33C hosted a legislative breakfast. Good conversation. Thanks to the administrators who attended and Mrs. Hayes attended. And then August 25th, invite to meet in another superintendent roundtable, again, with Representatives Natalie Manley and Dagmar Avalar. We generally just lay the concerns we have. You know, obviously, funding from the state is a real concern. Everyone is concerned really about two things in terms of funding, what's called mandated categoricals. These are the things that we're mandated to spend, but we get reimbursements for, and those reimbursements are seemingly prorated now. And then the second thing, one thing you'll see in your agenda, we're looking for FOIA relief because public entities all across the country and the state are just being slammed by what appear to be AI bots doing FOIAs. And that's, you know, the intent of Freedom of Information Act, you know, requests are so that citizens like this with us tonight can get access to district documents, not large corporations that have AI bots and are trying to crowdsource data to create AI search engines, right? That's not really the intent. So we're looking for some legislative relief there. We did have a little bit in the last legislative session. That's the legislative report.
Okay. All right, there's no public comment follow-up, so we'll move on to public comments. At each regular board open meeting, members of the public and district employees may address the school board during the public comment section of the agenda. Individuals appearing before the board are expected to respectfully follow the guidelines of Policy 2:230 and Policy 8:30 available upon sign-in. Public comments are important to the board. However, it is customary not to respond on issues until time has been taken to gather information and discuss the options. Lack of action or response at the time of comment does not imply lack of interest in the issues brought to the board. Up first, we have Brent Porfilio.
Yeah, Brandon, you can sit in this, you know, the mic moves, right? So just wherever you're comfortable, and it's best if it's kind of close to you.
Congratulations to the new school board members and the student school board members. I wanted to reinforce some of the negatives about the solar farm that we were talking about at the south end of the property. Village of Homer Glen did deny it. They didn't want any part of this, by the way. They did not want to change their zoning code to allow it. Just a little bit of history. I was on the Lockport Planning and Zoning Commission for 14 years. And just like Dr. McBride said, they would have to rewrite the whole zoning code to make this happen. R1 does not allow solar farms. It does not even allow them as a special use. So it would have to be, it might take 4 or 5 years to rewrite the code to get this allowed. So it's a long road, and there's no guarantees it's going to be approved. Something that wasn't brought up was Homer Glen, Crest Hill, and Lockport. They have over 5,000 housing units that are currently in the planning or development stage. What does that mean? It means more kids. Last I checked, I think we're at 90 or 95% capacity at Lockport East. Last time I checked, we need this land for expansion. The value of the land far exceeds the little bit of profit that I heard, $250,000 a year. So over 20 years, what's that, 4 million? That's peanuts. The value of the land far exceeds that. I believe you'll be losing the tax exemption status for the 10 acres when the solar farm is built. That's going to eat more into the profits. And lastly, I don't know if any of you read about the Wadsworth Gulf Foundation. They did not donate the land. They donated the development. And if you look on their website, they did acknowledge that as well to Lockport High School. And originally it was developed for children and the physically and intellectually disabled. So I don't think a solar farm is the ethical thing to put in that place. But the big thing is the value of the land. And over the next 20 years, they have to purchase the land back if we need the room for if Central continues to deteriorate over the next 20 years, we're going to really need that land back. And we don't have to want to spend millions to get it back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Mark Gowan.
All right, thank you. Well, this is going to be a much different speech than I've written, so I just throw this out. Thank you to the current board members, Dr. McBride, new board member Paul, student board members. You don't know what you got yourself into. You should push for academic credits for what you're doing here. But,
community service.
yeah, no, much different speech. I was going to do a thank you honestly, and then a complaint, but it's gonna be 2 thank yous. The thank you is actually to the appointment of Paul. When I saw the opening come up, I thought I made a list, who would make great board members and so forth and so on. And then I thought, I'm gonna go and check the last Will County consolidated election results. And Paul just did not make the cut by literally, handful of votes. So I thought to myself, I'm gonna tell somebody. So I told a board member that I know. I don't know if it made a difference. I was this close to dialing you up,
Call
Dr.
anytime.
McBride, and saying, wouldn't this be a good and novel board policy, right? In case because this is gonna happen again, right? Somebody's gonna move or something's gonna happen, retire. We'll have a vacancy. So maybe that's something the board should consider to make a practice. Maybe not a solid, requirement, but a practice. Look at the results and look at, who the people voted for, and make that maybe the top consideration. So that's a thank you. I don't know who I should thank. The board, obviously, for voting Paul in, and Doc for you, making it happen. So that's good. The second was a complaint about the the solar farm, but in your ultimate wisdom, you've recommended a tabling, and that is very much appreciated by this resident, probably a lot of residents. So thank you for that. And I guess I can't miss the opportunity one more time to talk about the use of the land. I know Brett made some great points. The use of that land should be probably for expansion. I know, given the housing boom that is probably around the corner, and y'all know I'm a big proponent of reality, and this may be a little unpopular because I heard the love pouring out for Central, and I don't want to disparage any of the work done on Central, but reality says it's a 117-year-old building, and it's not going to get any younger. It is not, to me, the ideal conducive learning environment that a new facility would bring. It is not fully ADA compliant like a new facility would bring. So possible use for the land would be a new freshman center. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm not saying tomorrow. I'm not saying in 2 years, 5 years, but I certainly would love to see that as part of the 10-year strategic vision. I mean, we got to kind of accept the fact that in 10 years, it'd be at 127, and then 130. Somewhere along the line, we have to have a plan to build a place that our freshmen could succeed. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Deanna Moore? No? Oh. Chris Malik?
Good evening. I live at the southwest end of the property where all the water goes. More specifically, it goes into my yard and into my house. I have an easement on either side of my house for power and one for water drainage. There's a culvert that exits your property and enters half on my property, half on my neighbor's property. I'm losing a fence, I'm gonna lose a tree, and I'm gonna lose an outbuilding because of the water outflow, okay? So that's my starting point. I'm not against solar panels at all, but I am against water. And there is a levee, if you're familiar with the property, there's a levee that runs basically on the back line of my property. When we have lots of rain, there's a collection area for the water. Sometimes it collects water, other times it doesn't. My property does. If you are going to install solar panels, you'll have to have a drainage or a stormwater survey done, and that's countywide. And we'll have to have that, I believe the county seats in Kankakee, So your attorney will be able to give you more specifics. I looked up the law, I read the law. I was a lawyer, it's what I used to do. So they'll give you a memorandum of the things you'll have to do. There will be people, I'm not one of them, but there will be people who will call this a nuisance because it will be right against their property line. And your attorneys will have to determine if Illinois considers solar panels a nuisance. And if it hasn't been adjudicated, you will be the defendant in a new lawsuit to establish Illinois law. Those are my main concerns. It's something that you will have to consider, but I mean, obviously you've tabled the issue, but these are questions that you will have to ask yourself and the community. And we're talking cost benefit, $250,000, you know, if Illinois decides that this would be a nuisance, you're gonna be out the money, your lawyers are gonna be a little richer. I mean, I know how retainers work, but you know what I'm saying. And people will be mad at the school district, the board. You guys will get voted out possibly. And for what? We have to, all of us, have to come up with a comprehensive plan that will reshape the property itself and not just laying solar panels on top of it, because that won't work. It just won't. Because you will not be able to get rid of the water in an effective manner. I know that little creek runs through on the north-ish side of it by the tennis courts. There's only so much water that can handle. Like I say, it all comes down by me. There are at least 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 students that go to this school whose property abuts that part. So these people will be directly impacted by, you know, what their students have to go through to get to school. If they wanted to walk to school, they have to walk through solar panels. Is it going to be hot? There are days that there's fog only in that little area, just on that south part of it. Is it going to be safe for them to walk? There's coyotes, I've seen fox, deer even, but there are animals that are there. And if you have solar panels, there are more places for wild animals to live. Are you going to have to fence off the property? All these things will have to go into your consideration. Like I say, you've tabled the issue, but when you come up with your memorandum to move forward with it, should you do it, I can show you the videos if you'd like to see what the water looks like sometime. That's all I really have to say. I have a point of contact through your board. I know one of your members, so if you guys ever have questions or want to see the videos, just because you're curious or you know whatever, you can get into contact with me. That's all I have to say. Again, Chris Malik.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kara Verdone.
Good evening. My name is Kara Verdone, formerly Tasky, and my home is one of approximately 12 homes on Porter Place, along with 5 properties on Division Street that back directly up to the field being considered for this solar project. I grew up attending Covent Grove and then Lockport before purchasing my home 9 years ago, and I want to emphasize something that I think can easily get lost when this property is looked at on a site plan. This is not just an unused piece of land. Over these past 9 years, I've seen this property serve as much more than an unused piece of land. I've watched the cross-country team run races through that field while parents stood by. I've watched the lacrosse teams practice, the soccer teams practice. I've watched neighborhood kids use that open space to play. I've watched dads bring their kids out to play a casual, low-stress couple holes of golf together. These aren't necessarily things that show up on a financial analysis, but they have value. That field has been a part of our neighborhood for years and part of the school community. And now we're talking about replacing it with rows of solar panels, fencing, electrical equipment, and other infrastructure beginning approximately 50 feet from residential property. I'm going to cut this down short because you guys have already tabled it, which I do appreciate. But as a CPA, I can absolutely understand the importance of the projected financial savings being presented here tonight or in the future. I understand the benefits of renewable energy. I'm not sitting here because I'm against solar energy. I'm sitting here because where you put it matters. Once this field is gone, it's gone.
once this project is built, the family surrounding it will live with that decision for years. I ended it with simply asking you to not make this decision right now. Appreciate you guys tabling it and consider this for the future if this comes up again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next public comment is signed up as 2 people. Can we, Dr. McBride, allow 2 people to speak at the same time?
That's really, that's up to you, Madam President.
Okay. Jeff and Amy Rutter. Got it. So for the record, Jeff Rutter.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Rutter. I sat in your seat from 1983 till 2008. I was on this board for 25 years during many of the periods of time that Dr. McBride was referencing. I do commend the school board for their efforts to seek additional sources of revenue. I certainly understand that. I get where you're coming from. I think it's important to recognize, and again, if this had been canceled and not tabled, I probably would not have spoken. But since it could come back up, I figured I'd get it on the record right now because I don't want to come back to the meeting again. So back in 1997, when we were seeking approval for this addition, the original building was 146,000 square feet, which is a pretty small footprint, and it was basically the green part that was on that photograph, and it went from 146,000 to 460,000 square feet. And so the spoils, as Dr. McBride represented, virtually all of them went to that side. And I'm going to come back to the origin of the golf course in a minute. But when those homeowners, a couple of whom have spoken already, when they bought those homes most of those homes, all of those homes were built prior to the 1997 passage of the additional space at Lockport East. So when they were living in those homes, when they bought them, their backyards literally pitched away from them. And so those water problems that exist today didn't exist prior to my actions, which I'm embarrassed to say, which built that property up as much as 8 feet. It was a massive addition to the landscape. And so we created sheet runoff that affected most of those homes. My wife and I live behind the tennis courts. So we have not been impacted by that sheet runoff. Prior to the construction, I don't think anyone else was either. So I just wanted to make that point. I would compel the school board that if you elect in the future to resurrect this point and pursue this project, that I would ask you to take some extreme actions to care for those neighbors who would join the school property and ensure that they're not adversely impacted. I can speak for most of those residents. I know most of them. The 2 that spoke tonight, I don't know, but on a side note, to the best of my knowledge, there were no side agreements that set aside special covenants for that piece of property when it was purchased from the Rajala family, which was in the mid-1970s. The Rajalas rented it from the school district for a few years, after which time the school district built the golf course. In fact, there was a tent erected and there was a big grand opening of the golf course, this is going to be in your backyard. So I can see how those residents would have the feeling that would never change. Now, that's probably unrealistic because it's school-owned property and the school has needs. So got to respect that. So that's really all I have to say. And if there's any more that anyone wants to ask me, people know how to get a hold of me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine Maxwell? I saw it on there. I thought it was you.
Thank you. My name is Catherine Maxwell. I live at 1230 Porter Place for 34 plus years. Love it. my backyard is that beautiful piece of property. I reached out to the board members. Dr. McBride, thank you for responding and answering a lot of my questions. It is such a wonderful thing to be able to email a board member and they actually get back to. I grew up in the city, nobody got back to. And I too, like Jeff, just would like my comments in case this comes up again. I looked at all the board webpage and only one person, one doctor, Dr. Christopher, said where she lived in Bolingbrook, you know, which is fine and dandy, but I just want you guys to know, would you like that in your backyard? Would you like a solar farm in your backyard? When this comes up again, think about that. I've seen them, they're ugly. And I live in a beautiful place and do not want to see it ruined. A point I do want to make is if the solar company wants 20 years and our roofs are worth 20 years, I don't see a problem with taking them off, putting them back on, taking them. It seems like they both would have the same shelf life, so that shouldn't be an issue. Plus, why don't the solar company pay for our new roofs? If they want them there, they want them here, and they're going to benefit from them, let them pay for our new roofs. Another location, you got that property at the front of the school. You don't want solar panels on 9th Street or 7th Street, whatever that street is called. You don't want them there. You want them where nobody sees them. You want them safe. I truly don't think this is the spot for them. So thank you for tabling it. We'll keep an eye on the webpage, and if it comes up again, we'll all be back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Chandarana.
I am not here for the solar panels, but I appreciated all the conversation. Good evening, board, staff, and committee members. My name is Missy Chandarana. I'm here this evening to speak to you about the renovation proposal for the CCC Transition Program and the LTHS Academy Program. As a parent of a CCC student, I see every day the value of this program. I emailed you, and it would take more than 3 minutes for me to explain the value I see in this program. But if you want to know, just reach out. Under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and the Illinois School Code, school districts must provide transition services through the end of the school year in which a student with an IEP turns 22. That means LTHS is legally and ethically responsible for delivering transition programming that prepares students for adult life, employment, independent living, and community participation, hopefully at the same quality standard used for all the other decisions made for all the other LTHS students. The Career and Community Connections Program, otherwise known as the CCC, is central to meeting these requirements. The CCC teaches independent living skills like cooking, laundry, grocery shopping, personal finance, and time management. The CCC provides vocational training, job coaching, community-based work experiences. These services help my son and the 41 other pairs who currently attend the CCC achieve gainful employment, home independence, and a smooth transition into adult day programs. And some of you I know have even seen the I can't think of the name of it now, but they have a shop, the pop-up shop. They opened.
The Artisan Market.
Thank you. The CCC is currently operating out of a retrofitted standard classroom that is far too small for the size of our district and the needs and numbers of the students it serves. The space is not functionally designed for life skills instruction, vocational preparation, or community readiness. It is also not fully accessible, which is a significant concern for a program serving students with disabilities. The numbers at the CCC have grown that another teacher was added, but the space remains the same. For comparison, another similar program in a sister district serves 17 students with 2 kitchens, 2 washers and dryers, compared to the LTHS CCC that currently has 2 stoves, 1 washer, 1 dryer for 42 students. The Lockport Academy faces similar challenges. The Academy is a therapeutic alternative program for students who need specialized social, emotional, and academic support. Yet its physical environment has historically been inadequate. Students previously had to walk past a dumpster to enter the program, which raises concerns about dignity, safety, and the therapeutic appropriateness of the space. I'm not certain whether this interest has been updated, but the concern remains relevant when evaluating facility needs. These issues are not just cosmetic. They directly affect our district's ability to meet IDEA requirements, uphold student dignity, and deliver the high-quality programming our students and community deserve. The proposed renovation is not just a facilities upgrade. It is a necessary step to ensure compliance, accessibility, and appropriate learning environments for all students of LTHS. For these reasons, I ask you, the board, to vote yes on the renovation proposal for the CCC and Academy, as it currently is the only option being considered to meet the needs of the 42 CCC students and the Academy students. If any board member feels they do not yet have the information needed to make an informed education decision, then I ask that the vote be postponed until these details are obtained and you come toward the space which students are present. They would actually love to see you. Meet with those providing the program, which they are absolutely amazing, I must say, and visit other local transition programs to see how they utilize their space. My son and his 41 other peers and students at the CCC, and the students at the Academy who utilize these programs deserve a decision made with confidence. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, communications, there are none. Freedom of information requests, there are 6 for the board members to see. Any questions on those?
Thanks for being so bold.
Okay, approval items. Approval of open session minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the open session minutes from the July 20th, 2026 board meeting?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Hayes, second by Ms. Lopez Caneva. Roll call.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
Strite,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve the closed session minutes from the July 20th, 2026 board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. O'Halloran, second by Ms. Strite. Roll call.
Strite,
Yes.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Abstain.
Hayes,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve the August 2026 board expenses?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, motion by Ms. Lopez Caneva, second by Ms. Hayes. Roll call.
Lencioni,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
Strite,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Treasurer's report.
Good evening, Board of Education.
Hello.
Hello.
You will see the treasurer's report in there, as usual, all our normal reports. Again, the main thing I'd like to point out, as usual, is our statement of position. Dr. McBride, if you would please show that. Our statement of position is where I monitor one of the board's goals, keeping our cash balances at 6 to 9 months. And so this is the first month you'll see of the new fiscal year, July. So all of the reports do show the comparison with the new tentative proposed budget that the board is asked to approve in an action item down the line here on the agenda. But you'll see our current balances are 9 months operating, and there's some imbalance in them. And you'll see when I talk about the tentative budget for the 26-27, there, we can balance those out because the legislation or the legislature did continue an option for the board to be able to transfer between operating funds. Okay, so we will be able to kind of balance out later in the year which funds have how much money so that we can continue to operate evenly throughout the education fund, the transportation fund, and the operations and maintenance fund, right? So because those are considered together operating, that combined with our working cash, those are our operating funds for just reason, right? That's what we use to operate the district, the educational programs and the buildings, and then getting the kids to school, right? Are there any questions on the balances and where they look right now?
I think the only question I have is you mentioned something about imbalances allowing to transfer. So looking at the months of cash on hand, there's some ups and downs that you've already mentioned. We've got some that are sitting at 4, some are sitting at 6. And I know that we've talked about having 6 to 9 months cash on hand. And maybe this is something to think about as we, between now and next month for the tentative budget, but just want to kind of start to think about that maybe we should consider leaning on the higher end of that range rather than the lower end, just because that cash flow is important and how we maneuver. So I appreciate you keeping a tight eye on that and always looking for where we can go ahead and make the opportunities transfer.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you will see that in the tentative budget summary, which looks very similar to this, right? And it does show on the tentative budget summary, the bottom of a transfer between education and operations and maintenance and transportation. You can see trying to even those out so that they're all within that 6 to 9, closer to 9, if we can keep it that way, right?
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Other things to point out in the treasurer's report this month, you'll see the list of other things that we need to, the board will need to approve. So this month, you'll see the tentative budget for this year, and then next month will be the open hearing. That's the words I'm looking for. Sorry, it's getting late. The hearing will be at the beginning of the board meeting for the public to comment. As the budget is already posted on our website, there was a notice in the paper saying when the budget hearing will be and that it's posted on that the budget is available for inspection on our website. People can come in and look at it too, but generally that doesn't happen. People will just go look at it on the website, right? So the exact same thing that the board will see attached is also attached for the members of the public to review in detail. Are there any questions on any of that? Okay. Do you want me to talk about the tentative amended budget now, or the tentative, not amended, the tentative budget for this year now, or do you want me to wait till later?
I think we'll wait until it's an action item, if you don't mind.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so up next we have, is it my report?
We have to accept
Oh, no, we have
the
to vote
report,
for this,
yeah.
sorry. Do I have a motion to approve the
Financial report.
treasurer's report?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Garrettson, second by Ms. Strike. Roll call.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Strike,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Okay, now it's my report. Sorry, I was getting excited. All right, so really my report focuses on the superintendent search process. So obviously for the public, we have hired a search firm to help us with this process. We engaged with Hazard Young and Atia back in July 20th. The position has been posted. It is currently accepting applications. But some things for the community that they may want to know, as there will be community focus groups. They will be virtual, and those will be on September 21st and 22nd. The Zoom link will be coming, so one will be at 7 p.m., the other one will be at 6:30 p.m. After that, HYA is going to present a leadership profile to the board at our October 19th meeting, so everyone can come and see that if they'd like. The application deadline is November 2nd, and then the search firm will present the recommended candidates in closed session on November 9th. The board will then interview the prospective candidates. We'll have 2 rounds of interviews, and then we will appoint the new superintendent once we deem that is decided. There also is a section on our webpage. Would you mind pulling that up really
Oh,
quick?
yeah, sure.
If anybody hasn't seen it yet. If you go to the LTHS website, there is a superintendent search banner. What do you call that, Jeanette? So I don't use the wrong
Tab.
word. Tab. Okay, on the right-hand side, that anybody can click on and just see where we're at in the process, and then any information that they'd like to know about the search process. So, thank you to.
Yeah, this links to HYA, and then at the bottom is the district landing page.
So thank you for putting that together for us and working with HYA to come up with all of those dates for the community engagements. What's that? Oh, okay, perfect. All right.
President Shaw, I just want to clarify the focus groups, there's 2, right, in September? And one is virtual and the second one is in person?
Did I say that
Correct.
incorrectly?
You
I
did.
apologize.
That's okay.
Oh, sorry. In person is at 6:30 on the 22nd.
Okay, thanks.
And it'll be here in the Porter Room. Okay, that's my report.
Okay.
Thank you. We've already had the superintendent's update. Now to the curriculum report.
Dr. Huntington. And there were some
Good
board
evening.
member questions related to that. So if you have the board member questions I passed out related to this survey, just to preface, not to steal Dr. Huntington's thunder, but just kind of recapitulate, I think some of our educators might know this. I don't even remember how many years ago, but the state of Illinois partnered with University of Chicago and created a survey called the 5 Essentials Survey. And for a number of years, I think 12 to 15, we've been mandated every year to give the 5 Essentials Survey to parents, students, and staff members. And each one of those have thresholds for participation that we have to make. We have to get 50% of our students, 50% of our staff, and 20% of our parents. Parents have been difficult. There's some fatigue. Woe be it to you, if you have children in 3 different schools, you're going to get 3 different surveys. Understand. When the state made available alternative surveys, we really took a careful look at that because we thought sometimes our participation was low, especially by parents, because there were some very just difficult, hard to understand questions. Survey was longer. We ultimately went with the company Panorama. We found our return was really great. One thing Mr. Lencioni asked, some of the questions we cannot finesse. When I was a high school principal, and I want you to high school, there's a question on the 5 Essentials that asks teachers, how often does the principal help you with your lesson plans? And I almost always got 0 because no high school teacher, Mrs. Kishline, would you like me as a high school principal to help you with your lesson plans, right? It just was so, it was a question that was so foreign to teachers. They would say, of course not. No slight to me. There's a question also about how often at the high school level, and this ported over to Panorama, can you volunteer in your child's classroom? That's also a practice that's not very common. We have a lot of entryways for parents to be part, but generally parents don't volunteer. Maybe Penelope would love that, right? Or Maddie, but we generally don't do that. So there was a question about why was this question low? Generally, we just don't offer in classroom. So I just want to give that preface to Dr. Huntington, jump right on in about.
He totally stole all my thunder, right?
Oh, come on now.
I'm just kidding. I have to say that going to Panorama was the right decision to make. We did definitely get more parental participation ever. The one thing that I always try to tell people to take a look at is that they give you 2 kind of ways to look at the data. All school data, so every school that was assessed, elementary, kindergartens, all the way, every school, and then really try to look at the data to be able to compare ourselves to apples, right? So we want to look at large high schools. And so when we shift over and just kind of filter through by comparing ourselves to large high schools, you will see that we are scoring well beyond what other high schools are doing as far as culture and climate, with an 80% rate of people feeling good about our school. So if you just did all the schools, we're at the 40th percentile, but if you look at just large high schools, we're at the 80th percentile in positive culture, school and culture. So one question that I think that we but we had a small working group of people that really kind of dug in deep to this data. And we saw that we had a decrease in school culture, which was surprising to us because we kill it. We really feel good about our school culture here. So when we were trying to unpack the data of why we lost some percentage points in, it all comes down to cell phones. People did not like us putting rules around cell phones, and then we took kind of a hit with we apply rules unfairly. And so we really kind of looked at that as being the reason why that came down. Surprisingly, I was able to disaggregate that data even closer by looking, our juniors do not like cell phone rules. They were the ones that really got us down. Where our seniors, we had a 2% increase in that category, and our freshmen, a 4% increase. So our juniors kind of really took us to task on cell phones. They don't like it. And that kind of brought down the culture. Yeah, I know. So, is there any other questions about the display? I tried to kind of do like what's working, what needs work, and then also you have that infographic with all that data on there, kind of broken out for you.
Thank you for explaining that. And I understand there's a lot of data that you collected.
There is.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways to break it up, and I've seen that many ways. But your explanation of how you can divide it through even grade levels, parents versus students, and all those kinds of avenues to look at the data was very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Okay.
How did you determine that it was the phones that were causing problems?
So we looked at what the questions were, and they really came around to rules. How we're applying rules. And so we said to ourselves, well, why is this so different? Why did we get such a lower? And then we looked and we said, well, what rules were applied this year? Cell phones. So we then grabbed a few students and we said, what'd you put in for this survey? Like, and they're like, oh, well, like teacher A doesn't make us use the Porter packets, but teacher B does. And so that's unfair. So those were the kind of things that we got back when we were asking kids, just, random sample. We had some people that had children that go to school here that filled this in a little bit too. So, thank you. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Principal's report.
Good evening. As you can see, we didn't put a general report in as we usually do, so we just wanted to talk to you tonight about the first day of school. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Brian Ammer and his staff. Michael Lane sat in our meeting, and there were a lot of what ifs. The weather did not cooperate with us, so the rain really put us behind with construction work, and then being out of power. So there were some times where we were really worried. And then, we were able to get things done. John from Berglund has been amazing at helping us out. And even when the staff came back on Thursday and Friday, there was still a lot to be done. And I just said, trust the process, trust the process. And Brian and his staff worked around the clock this weekend. And when we came back this morning, the building looked amazing.
Between Brian and Anthony and John, I knew it was going to get done the way that they talked about it, and there was no way.
Absolutely.
It was not
Anthony has been phenomenal. Brian spent his whole weekend at Central, and Kate, our head custodian at Central, she actually had damage in her own house, has been without power for 5 days, and she was there around the clock. So I can't say enough to thank everyone who got our building up and ready to go. We didn't have a mudslide in the front lawn. We have sod. And our freshmen today, I can't say enough about the class of 2030. They were amazing. They were so respectful all day long. So this morning we kicked it off at Central, and our freshmen were, bright-eyed as they walked into a building that they've never attended before. So our staff was there to welcome them. We handed out maps. They got a map at orientation, but they got another map today as they walked in the door. We got them to their first period class. Then we had an all-school assembly. And I have to say that you could hear a pin drop in the auditorium. So I applaud these freshmen that came in. They were phenomenal. And we kind of went over logistics and kind of what it means to be a Porter, and we welcomed them into the Porter family. So we had an outstanding day. They were awesome navigating the building, and our staff was out there with smiles, just helping them find their classrooms. 213 seems to be, the one hallway that the kids still can't find, and that's okay. Every time we switch classes, that's still the hallway. But they were amazing. We only had one student miss their bus at the end of the day, and transportation, we called them, they were phenomenal. they swung back around and made sure that that student got home. So it has been a great start for day one for the class of 2030. So I thank everybody who made that happen and got us, up and running at Central Campus.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to also echo some of the things that Dr. Green has just said about our custodial and maintenance, and Brian Ammer specifically. We know that it's a heavy lift to get two campuses together at the very start of the school year, especially when we've had some weather incidents in the last few weeks that have kind of impacted the work. And so thank you again for your hard work. I too lost power, and Brian was like, do you need a generator? Can I help you out? And so just the kindness and care that he shows to, our staff and to our school community is appreciated. For us, it was a little bit different because, we had our returning students, but we also had our sophomores, and it really is like a new experience for our sophomores. And so thank you to our staff who also was out and about to help with their transition to East Campus. There were some students that, they'd walk up and I'd say, "Are you okay?" They're like, "I need to know where room E57B is." Everyone learned today that E means East Campus. And so we were getting our students to their classes, and there were a lot of smiles. There was a lot of excitement and squeals and showing of their fits. Everyone talked about their fits today. One of the things that I also wanted to acknowledge was Quest. Quest has changed our menu a bit, and so students have some more options, and they seem to be eating well, and they liked something that we were calling like Chipotle, but not Chipotle. And so it was cool to see that, students are really eating the food and they're adjusting to the 8-period day. The schedule is different for our staff, and there were a lot of smiles and just conversations just about how happy and excited students were today and how very focused they were in the classes. We also have our senior sunrise this Friday at 6 a.m. And if you have never had to experience a senior sunrise, I offer coming on out just to see how, they dress up. They have their picture frames. They come up with making their own picture frame to take a picture with each other. We play games, they have donuts. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great way. The jeans, Dr. Green has made jeans, and we asked, can you make us all jeans for this Friday night?
I have a senior.
Yes, she does. So, that's another event that's coming. But, while I have the opportunity just to, speak, we also had a wonderful time in Japan this summer, and I just wanted to say thank you to the board for that opportunity for our students. There were over 249 students that were there from around the world in Japan this summer. And one of the things I can say about our kids, not every school has a Japanese language program. And so some schools came there, as an experience, just to see the country, experience the culture. But our kids, I believe that their experience was just a bit different because they have the language and they were able to use it. And it was such a wonderful experience for them to have that opportunity. And I just want to say thank you again to the board for, providing these opportunities that students don't necessarily get in other high schools. It's been a great start, day one, and we're hoping for good things the rest of the week and the rest of the school year. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Facilities report. Oh, no. Gosh, I'm scared. All right, overnight field trip. It says none, but there are some.
Right, we had some last minute additions to the lineup, so don't just letting the board know we've got some teams traveling. We got tennis, boys golf. Just porters will be overnighting, so important for you to know.
Okay. Facilities report.
Very extensive, a lot going on in Mr. Ammer's area. You can kind of see it. Obviously, pictures once again. These are some non-central items like the welding lab, some door installation, stair tread replacement, a lot of running around, coping, wind, dealing with that, and then obviously all the things you heard tonight. Just about getting set up. I don't know if there's any questions for Mr. Ammer. It's been a busy time.
Good job. I just want to say thanks for applying for that grant for the welding That was a fun little surprise.
And that, just to kind of give the board an idea, we annually apply to Citgo as part of our Innovation Academy. And Citgo's been a really great partner. You know, some of you are at the 100 years of that refinery. They've just been a good corporate partner working with us, supporting STEM education. And occasionally a Boston Marathon runner.
Waiting for that. No further questions? Okay, up next we have consent agenda items 2 through 8. Do I have a motion to approve consent agenda items 2 through 8?
I'm sorry, Madam President, I asked that number 7 from the consent agenda items be taken off and done in a separate vote.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 6 and 8?
I can make the motion.
So moved.
All right, motion by Ms. Hayes, second by Ms. Garrettson. Roll call.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Strike,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve consent agenda item number 7?
So moved.
I can second it, sorry.
All right, motion by Ms. Garrettson, second by Ms. Hayes. Roll call.
Hayes,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva,
Abstain?
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Strike,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Okay, action considerations. We already voted on number 1. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution authorization for the filing of an assessment complaint with the Will County Board of Review regarding PDV Midwest Refining Lamont Refinery?
Yes. So moved. I make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Garrettson, second by Ms. O'Halloran. Roll call. Oh, any questions? Sorry. Okay, roll call.
Strike,
Yes.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve the White Summer 2027 General Task Services?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lopez Caneva, second by Ms. Garrettson. Any questions?
And just to point out to the board, as you get familiar with this relationship, White is here, obviously, Mr. Amer is here. You've done this process before. This is just the process that impanels White to begin the design, to begin the programming, to work towards bid specifications. Just in a general statement, every single thing tonight is off of your 10-year facility master plan, just for some context.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Lencioni,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
Strike,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the White Summer 2027 East Campus renovations?
I make the motion.
I can second it.
Motion by Ms. Garrettson, second by Ms. Hayes. Any questions? Roll call.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Strike,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the White Summer 27 Central Campus renovations?
I make that motion.
I'll second that.
Ms. Garrettson, second by Ms. Lopez Caniva. Roll call. Oh, sorry, any questions?
I had a question regarding the CCC and Academy.
That's the next agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. Nope, we're good.
Okay,
Elevator.
I'm
This one's the
there with you,
elevator.
Ms. Hayes, don't worry.
This one's the elevator.
This
Go
one's
ahead.
on the exterior stabilization work, kind of, is it the leftover from this year?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
this
think
is what's
so,
left
yeah.
over.
Over from this year.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Right, thank you.
Any questions? No. Okay, roll call.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Stride,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve the White Summer 2027 Central Campus CCC and Academy renovations?
I make the motion.
I can second that.
All right, motion by Ms. Garrettson, second by Ms. Lopez Caniva. Questions?
Okay. So my question was, as I was reading the information from Ms. Croy, she was saying that we would be looking for doing bonds instead of doing the renovations via fund balances. And so I just wanted to bring that to attention, because I know I wasn't part of the board when they decided that, but the board had told the district, or the district and the taxpayers that we would be taking that out of fund balances. So now we're changing that, and we'll be taking on debt to do that.
Right, and what I would, that's a decision independent of this
Okay.
decision, you know,
Okay.
financing this work, and you kind of heard from Missy Chandarana, and this is kind of fast-tracked because of, probably of all the programming here, this is some of the most detailed. You know, this project has been really, really tabled through, you know, 2 successive boards,
Right.
facility master planning, you know, we're worried we're gonna miss a curve and it's gonna be 2028 before we're really getting this project done. I think that there was a board member question about, I think it was Ms. O'Halloran,
I did.
about fund balances, and you might recall, Ms. Sayes, in the Facility and Finance Committee last week, you know, economic situations are changing frequently. The ISBE noticed that this board has been using drawing down fund balances, at least from their seat. That's a little bit of an alarm bell, right? They're noticing that. That's not changing our you know, recognition status, but they are putting us on notice. Basically, we're paying attention that you're lowering your fund balances. Since 2024, there have been dramatic changes in the economic situation. Costs have gone way up, and that's across the board. You know, you as a board are facing costs, high costs everywhere, not just in the, you know, facilities business, although those have been very high, perhaps in even ways that we couldn't imagine at that time, right? So it's always, do you go with, as a strategy, manageable debt as a business, or do you go with liquid cash, right? Each lever can only do certain things, and as we shared with the Finance and Facility Committee, I do think we need to have, you know, a good conversation about your drawdown, timing-wise and amount of fund balances. Mr. Lencioni asked me, am I reading this correctly, that the overall plan, this was the directive that we received, was about a $20 million drawdown of fund balances. If you look in the 5-year financial forecast, and I got back to Mr. Lencioni, I said, yes, that's the board's current trajectory. And what I would encourage is, just like each one of these projects, you know, we've lined them up with White separately because that's how you'll see the bid packages, right? You know, we talked last year with the master plan. You'll see each one of these separately, even though it's part of a whole plan. I think you want to do the same thing with your financial approach, and this really wouldn't come to fruition, you know, almost this time next year, simply because drawing down liquid cash does expose you to two potentials. It exposes you to the potential of deficit spending, and it exposes you to the potential of program cuts. That's always lurking out there if your liquid cash is lower, right? Whenever you take liquid cash, you apply it to something like a facility, you know, it goes into that facility, you know, not someplace else, right? So I just think you want to be thoughtful about that right now, versus manageable debt, right? You know, the two. Manageable debt, you know, does create an immediate principal and interest burden, but amortized over a long period of time. That's the whole idea with life safety bonds. So I don't think you have to make a decision tonight, but with the change of economic conditions, I think you should revisit it as a board. I'll give you a simple operating, piece, and we'll talk, I know, about the budget, but it's interesting, right? If you open up a lot of lines of credit and you begin paying those lines of credit, your credit rating actually goes up because lenders see that you're responsible, a responsible risk. If you take a large asset and you pay all of those debts off, your credit rating actually goes down. It's a strange thing, right? You would think it would go up. Look, I paid all these off. But really, credit rating gets about debt management, right, more than anything else. The same is really true with schools, that, banks, if they see that they want to see strong fund balances, they want to see that you can manage debt. That's important to them. And when people bid on bonds. So I think it's a conversation that you're going to have in the economic climate that's changed dramatically in the past 2 years. So I don't know, Stephanie, if you have anything to share, Mrs. Croy.
So my suggestion is that we consider like switching projects that we use out of fund balance, not necessarily not using fund balance, right? So the reason I say that is because that's one of the higher cost projects on the list, right? So it would be a big hit to fund balance all at once at the time where we're kind of close right now anyway. And by that, I mean, when we get to the tentative budget in the next action item, like Dr. McBride said, we have an unbalanced budget for the first time in a long time. And at this time, a deficit reduction plan isn't required, but it would be in the future if we continue that route. And so using more fund balance causes us to be kind of in that situation.
In a greater situation.
Right. So, and part of the operating concern, like Dr. McBride said, one of the things he mentioned earlier in his superintendent's report is mandated categoricals. And transportation is one of the biggest ones right now. And that's one where, it's supposed to reimburse us for our expenses so this year, we're supposed to receive a reimbursement for what we spent last year. And it's been continually prorated more and more and more. So it used to be 80% proration. And well, at one point it was 100% we were receiving, but that was a long time ago. And then it got to like a normal of 80% proration. And now we're getting to the 60% proration status, which means we need more other revenue in there to pay for those things. So that takes away from other projects or, other parts of the budget. So that's just my suggestion, is that as we look at each of these projects, we consider which ones we use fund balance for. So that was my suggestion. And again, as Dr. McBride said, what we're approving tonight, correct me if I'm wrong, but is the approval for White to get moving. We're committing to the projects. We're going to commit to some expenditures, right? We'll be paying White. But then when they bring bids forward, then the board has to approve those. And then the board has to approve the funding mechanism if we're going to have bonds issued.
Right.
So all of those pieces are separate approvals.
Okay. So, I mean, and I honestly, I bring it up for a multitude of reasons. I don't think it's a big secret, but the fact that Central is an older building and I was on the other side, and we discussed multiple times, how long do we fix it? I know where the CCC and Academy kids are. I've toured it. It's kind of like trying to make a purse out of a sow's ear. There's only so much room we can get from there. And so when the board moved forward and the community spoke, it seemed like that was kind of a consensus. Okay, fine, if we want to put money into Central, then it should come from our fund balances. We shouldn't take on new debt that the taxpayers have to pay again. They've already paid, and that money is sitting in our fund balances. So I can understand that, maybe we would move the fund balances around to a different project. I just, if it were all up to me, I wouldn't renovate that space for those kids. I don't think it's the greatest space that we have. I wonder if we could do something better. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't how much, but it's just one of those things that always sticks in my craw. And then to have the money be even hinted that we might not use the fund balances that the board had said in the past, it's a concern of mine. And I appreciate talking about it now and bringing it up. I don't want to extend every single meeting, but I will say there are times, I'm on the finance and facilities, and things are brought forward and we discuss them, and then they're brought to the board and we're moving on to votes, and it's like, yeah, well, we discussed it, but I I don't know if we came to a resolution at finance and facilities, or I don't know how curriculum works because I haven't been able to go to any of those because they're at the same time. But so I just want it to be out there that we're paying attention and we're, making sure that we're, working the best that we can for the district.
And I think I would say from what Ms. Croy has recommended, I mean, I think it is making the best decision for the situation that at hand. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. It's a big project. We're going to need a big amount of money to do it. It might be better use of our fund balances to spread it out over time, use it on some smaller projects, and finance the CCC through bonds. I understand your concern. My son is going to be a CCC student.
Of course.
So to hear, yes, let's give them the best. I would love to construct something new. But there's no way we could do new construction on any of these plots of land without a referendum. And we've heard from our community 7 times that a referendum just is not going to pass.
Right.
So even if we want to build something back there, we would need a referendum. We
Unless
can't
it's
just
an
decide.
addition.
Well,
that's the truth. You don't need a referendum if it's an addition. So
Well-
if you could attach it to East.
Yeah, but then at that point in time, we would need to take out bonds, right, for any addition.
so regardless, there's no taxpayer savings on that. We have come up with a plan that, the 10-year master facilities plan, that I think is the best use of what we have and the best interest of our taxpayer dollars, because we're using the facilities that we have. We're adding minimal debt onto the taxpayers' backs, and really, that's what we've asked the administration to do.
And it's really, I think, it's an issue of rate. And I always just make this personal. Probably all of us, you have operating cash that's coming in from, a salary or wherever you're earning income. But yet you might have a mortgage, or you might have a credit card, or you have a home equity loan. So every day you're deciding, am I going to use, my checking account or my savings account, or am I going to use this credit card? And you're making, or am I going to use that home equity loan? Or am I going to go into, a deeper investment like a 403B? You're making that decision situationally, and each of those decisions have consequences, right? And, I think thinking through what those consequences are when you just think about your own finances, I'd ask all board members to reflect, how do you manage that yourself? Because it kind of gets to what you're the most comfortable with, right? Am I comfortable with some debt? Do I spend down my savings? I'm comfortable with that. Thinking about that kind of gets closer to the heart of how you feel about creatively financing things. All money is green. It comes from someplace. But I think you're right on it, Dr. Shaw. It's the concern about the rate of the draw, right? To what degree does that leave you exposed and potentially vulnerable for unanticipated costs? Liquid cash is really your only answer for unanticipated costs, for balanced budget. It's right now we're balancing your budget through fund balances at your direction. That's how we're doing it.
I would say I heard something a little bit different from Tammy. I think what Tammy is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that she's not opposed to spending the money on the CCC and the academy, but it's when you are renovating a 117-year-old building and the utilization, the age, the time that you're going to be able to utilize that, is that a good investment? And investing it in something that could be added to this building would be a longer, more beneficial investment.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And the only thing I would say is, and if I could, without sounding arrogant, I really think it's important for us to stop calling that building a 117-year-old building. It is not.
I was just
It was
repeating
built.
what somebody
No, I
else
just think
said.
it's really important, Mr. Heller, and here's the reason why. Only one small section of that building is 117 years old. One was built in the 1920s. One was built in the 1930s. The youngest section of Central is the same age as this building. So I just think that's really for accuracy in the community.
Sure.
I just think it's important. Every time we say it's 117 years, we're actually not being accurate about the facility itself. And I think accuracy is really important. But I also, I will probably walk myself out here with the sobering of we have surveyed what the community has said. The community has definitively said that it wants these facilities upkept, but it doesn't want a high tax burden and the things that you're proposing are the highest tax burdens you can put on your constituency. Big additions, new buildings, definitively the most expensive thing that you can offer to your community. And I with some hesitation, I think we should all, really have some reverence for the history of the district. But not only that, when we've surveyed in May 2024, May 2025, what our constituents, these are thousands of people who responded to a survey, had a really clear set of priorities. I just think that's so important. The longer that we say a huge addition, it's worthwhile to look at the 1997 cost of almost doubling the size of this facility. Also, our architectural friends, from White could talk about what would it be like to put an addition on an addition, right? That's an architectural, thing. But I really think that big architectural, additions and or building another building, I would even say right now your demographic forecast doesn't support it. You don't have the students, you don't have the numbers. We had two gentlemen that are anticipating a big bubble. It's not on the horizon. It just isn't. And so I think being really, clear and realistic, right, with the realities that we're facing. If there is another location for the CCC at the Lockport Academy, we've tried to cite it out. Now is the time to direct us to look for that other. We've looked for that other place, and we don't have another place in the district. We've spent 2 years looking for that other place, and one thing I would say is in this community we have a lot of unused. We have 159th and Cedar unused. The land behind us relatively unused. The whole west side of Central unused. And there's a cost with that, right? You have a cost with it. So we have spent 2 years looking for a different place, and we would be open. We've just run out of options for where that place would be in time to serve the students that we have and we're growing. We're running out of time. The runway to serve kids is getting narrower and narrower and narrower. So I just don't know where that place would be.
And I just going off of that, something I want to add. I've worked in buildings where transition programs have been housed in the building where the student goes to school. So correct me if I'm wrong, but students that would be in the transition program start here at East and they attend here for 4 years. Then once they graduate, they go to a different location. When that school is housed in the same building for 4 years and then they continue on, they still feel like they're in high school. So they're not really transitioning out of anything. So they want to go to homecoming. They want to, but you're trying to create a place where they are transitioning out into adulthood. And I think that moving the students from one facility to the other is a great benefit to them.
That's a very true statement. And, we've seen that as success in our own district, in Romeoville, Bolingbrook.
In your investment now, today, this moment, right now, you've created 20 more years for Central. You had to make some kind of decision as a board. Without referendum support from your committee, you had to make some kind of decision. And that really limited your options. So that facility you've already put time, treasure, money, design into it to create a relatively permanent fixture, I think, for about the next 20 years. So, I think just acknowledging that is just awfully important, right? I mean, I think we'd all, we heard Jerome McKibben, and I don't think he's wrong. I think he's 100% right that we should be turning over and building new facilities, right? I think you and I were kind of reacting to that, Mrs. Hayes. The community just has not supported that approach.
For sure. No, I
so
understand that going to referendum has not gone well.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the survey too, I read a lot of those survey responses, and using your fund balances, using the money you already have was key. Yes, keeping up what we already have, spending the money that you already have on our facilities. And so that's really, it's more so, I don't want to say I care more about the money. I don't want to displace the kids. Like I said, I've been in there. There's not a lot of sunlight. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite place. I don't know how they're going to renovate it to make it what it should be. And I mean, I hope that they do an amazing job. I just, of course, also too worry about when the board says something and we say we're gonna follow through with it. I just, want to make sure that we are being conscious of that.
Yeah, and I don't say, like Stephanie said, I don't think that we're saying don't use fund balances. We're just saying use them in a different way.
Yeah, and I did not hear that prior.
And it
to
could be a
today.
combination too,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I
When I see something in writing that says suggested bonds, then I get nervous, like, wait a minute, that's not where we were last I knew, so that's all.
Right, but I did say that, and use fund balance for small projects. So still using fund balance, just spreading it more. So that's really up to the board. It can be a combination too. It can be, we don't use the whole 8.6 out of fund balance right away. We use half of it, 2/3 of it, we use a third of it. What, again, it's all a board decision.
For sure.
So, yeah. And then, the results or, the trajectory of our finances based on whatever decisions we make, I'll just continue to forecast to the board and project, and then we'll have to do whatever we need to do to keep all the operations going too. So, decisions will have to keep being made to continue to that we want. So,
okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a first and a second. Any further questions?
No.
Roll call.
Hayes,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Strike,
Yes.
Strath.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve the tentative budget for fiscal year 26-20?
I make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Garrettson, second by Ms. Strite.
Okay. As we typically do, there's a number of attachments for the board to look at the tentative budget. Reminder of the budget timeline, and again, I spoke to that a little bit earlier about notice to the public. Also in our Friday message last week, Ms. Castillo, she also let everybody know, as we're required to do, let our families know that budget's available for review. In addition, you've got the couple of documents, right? So you've got the legal budget form. So if you can click on the ISB budget form, please, Dr. McBride. So this is the legal document this is our budget, right? This is what needs to be approved. This is what needs to be filed with the county clerk for our tax backup. And this is the document on page 1 where next month, when everyone votes on it, you would sign in your yay or nay column. Okay, the only document that all board members have to sign, as opposed to the secretary, where they sign on behalf of the board for many other things, right? This is the one document where everyone needs to indicate their vote by signature. But you'll see at the very top of that it explains that it's technically an unbalanced budget right now, but it doesn't require what they're referring to as a deficit reduction plan, which really what that would be is they want to see that over the next 3 years you're not going to continue to deficit spend, right? So at this time we don't have to do that. We'll see where the year ends up and what next year's budget would look like, right? We'll try to forecast that in the 5-year projection, which you'll see later in the year. The other document, Dr. McBride, the full detail account listing, starts with the summary that I've given the board before, where it's a 1-page summary showing all the expenditures of the district up the top, because really that's what we're budgeting, right? We're budgeting the expenditures. What are we going to spend this year? And then how are we going to fund it, right? So that's the way that this document has been set up. But this is the document I was referring to, where I show at the bottom what the projected month's cash on hand would be. And so the way that this budget is set up currently, the tentative budget, you'll see that it's balancing things back out and kind of keeping that 11 months cash on hand overall. That, of course, reminding the board, is at the end of the fiscal year, right? So that's after spring taxes are collected. I did kind of do a estimate if the board decides to use
the estimated 8.6 for the CCC and Academy project. Out of fund balance, what this would do if we were to add it all into this budget, which technically won't happen because part of it will get paid in this budget, part of it will get paid in next budget, but just for illustration purposes, if we were to put the whole 8.6 in here, that 11 months goes down to 9 months, okay? Which it is, if that's what the board wants us to do, that's what we would do, right? My concern as the person that manages the cash flow is that 9 months is at our high point. And our low point would be a few months back from that, and that would get a lot closer to the 5 and 6 months, which is still doable, but it's tighter. It's also tighter because of the nature of the spending is not all consistent, right? Salaries and benefits are paid consistently throughout the year, but some of the other funds and things aren't. For example, July is usually one, and as you looked at the expenditures for this month, the bills payable list in the treasurer's report, July is a high spend month all the time. And the reason is because we are paying for things like buses that were purchased at the beginning of the year, new equipment, you know, if there's computers, things like that, summer projects from the operations and maintenance fund, all those things are all like one time, right? They're coming up in the tight summer time frame. And also a lot of annual renewals of software that the board approved previously in the spring about here's all the electronic resources that we're using. The renewals are typically in July. So July is usually a very high spend month. So cash flow purposes, I want to keep the balances at the 6 month minimum personally so that we can continue to cover when it's high, you know, when the expending is high. And that's illustrated in the treasurer's report on that cash flow document. The other things that you'll see here is you'll see page 2 of this detailed document shows us the tentative expenditures by category, right? You'll see again that salaries and benefits are our highest spend. This graph is total expenditures, so it's a little skewed with the 19 of the central project, right? So that salaries and benefits portion would be a much higher percentage when we back that out because capital outlay goes down to 10% as opposed to 20%, right? So just keep that in mind because I did this on a total expenditures, not necessarily on an operating expenditures basis. And then the next screen just kind of shows where all the money comes from. And as we all know, taxpayers fund the majority of our operating budget. So that is where what you'll see on the next page. But we also do get some pieces of other revenue, right? Right now we have interest investment income that's high because rates are still high. And we also kind of try to invest out some of our funding a little bit more long-term to earn a little more money. And then the rest of it, as we need it, invest out to when the next bills are due and when the next salaries are due, right? Every 2 weeks. But you'll also see that the evidence-based funding, we remain a tier 2 district. What that means is the district, the state sees that we are funding to the level of, I want to say our funding is at 86%. It might be 84 now. I can't remember whether it's 86 or
84%.
84, it was 86 then. Okay. Tier 2 still gets us a little bit more money. It's like $86,000 that we get in addition this year. And then we also have some state funding and a little bit of federal and corporate personal property replacement taxes. And then behind that, if anyone should choose to look at every line item we have, they are all there. Okay. Information I gave to the board in narrative form in the approval item is primarily a list of, you know, the compilation of the budget starts in January, and then the things start getting approved from there, right? So we have a resolution that says that the board directs the superintendent or designee to start working on the budget. We start doing that. We start here, our biggest start here is our students. Our students select courses, that drives our staffing. And so that's where that all starts. That's the first things we do. So you'll see in here, then I list where all that staffing approval comes from, right? The board has approved collective bargaining agreements. The board approves our additional staffing in March. So you'll see a list there of all the things that compile into this budget that you're seeing. and where they came from, right? There were various things throughout the time that we've presented to the board for approval. And then in addition to that, there are other things that we're required to provide, like the mandated categoricals that we were talking about. We are mandated to provide transportation, but the state doesn't fully fund it. So that's a mandated categorical. It's mandated, but we don't have necessarily full funding to pay for it. Special ed programming, special education programming is also a mandate, right? Like we are required to, like we've talked about earlier today, we're required to provide these things. And so some of that is a high expense area, right? And that explains our debt service payments as well. So those things take up most of the rest of the budget. There's a small percentage of the budget is things like some supplies in classrooms, supplies for office, office supplies, other things like that. There's a much smaller percentage. It's down to like 6% of the budget that's not listed here as one of these required by law, required to operate the building, right? All the utilities and maintenance, or are previously approved, which is the majority of the budget. The other thing that I did not write down, but I wanted to kind of review with the board quickly is, so all of these things the board approves for us to do, but we still as administration and as the building administration, we still try to control those costs as best we can, doing things like the bid for the buses, right? We have to by law, but also it helps us save money. We also do things like join energy consortiums to save money on energy. Our other cooperatives for benefits for health and for all of our other health insurance and the other health and welfare benefits for employees, that's a cooperative, and as well as the other insurance cooperative for our workers' comp and our property casualty liability. Those are cooperatives. And the biggest advantage of joining cooperatives is bulk purchasing, right? I have a document for the CLIC, which is our workers' comp and property casualty and liability. We are just finally now, after it's like 20 years, we're finally at the point we're spending now what we spent 20 years ago with a different agency. Okay, so we saved money over all those years because we were able to drop down, and then finally inflation has caught up with things, right? So all of that time being in the cooperative, we're still getting a bulk purchasing rate. We're managing those costs with different levels of insurance, as well as trying to, get so many school districts are part of an entity like CLIC, and the energy consortium is the same way, that the buying power gets us to keep the good rates. Even though we keep having natural disasters the way we have them, we're still able to get good rates on property insurance, and our property deductible is still only $2,500. Okay, so the incidents we spoke about earlier, we have filed 2 claims for some of those things, and we will be reimbursed for some of them because we only have a $100 deductible, right? That would be different potentially if we were trying to insure on our own. So those are some of the things that we do, as well as in the salary side of things. And I know we spoke about this before. We really try to hire, knowing that we had to hire 19 new staff members this year, everyone involved in hiring did a really good job of hiring an expensive candidate when we needed it, and a less expensive candidate when we could, right? That did not mean a lesser candidate, right? We still have very good quality candidates because we had a ton of applicants. We're very fortunate that our climate and culture attracts people, right? That being said, of those 19 new positions this year, 9 of them were Bachelor's Step 1 teachers. So that significantly keeps us down. And then 12 of them were Step 1. The difference there is the social workers have more education, so they will not be hired at bachelor's. They would be hired beyond bachelor's because they require it for their degrees, right? For what they are going to be doing for us. So I don't know if there are any other questions about other things we do to try to control costs. We've talked about in the past too about review of the electronic resources annually. Part of that process is, are we not using this product anymore? If the usage is low, we're not going to renew it, and we've done. I know Dr. McBride has talked about the survey instrument we use as well, and we've gone to a less expensive survey instrument, right? Those are the things that we do to try and do the same things, provide the same services, but at a lesser cost. The tech department does a job evaluating of laptops, Chromebooks. They choose what they think they need, and then they evaluate them and look for good, good pricing. And when we can, we try to buy early so that we can get better pricing. And we've had success doing those processes. But my point is that we have processes in place to try and manage the costs of the things we do have to purchase. So trying to be good stewards of the dollars we do have, right? So I don't know if there are any questions on the tentative budget or the process.
No, Stephanie, I just want to say thank you, because I think it's easy to give praise when you see meetings and you see places that are making, sweeping slashes into budgets, and, those are the very visible things. But like the unnoticed work of what you're doing to contain costs, I think is just, it's more work. We could come in and say, let's cut all of these things and, then we'll, save money. But the back end work, the work that doesn't get seen, like the things that you just described, there's definitely appreciated, and I appreciate you for doing that.
I'll accept on behalf of everyone that thanks, because it's not a one-person job. It really isn't. Our budget process includes so many people that it is an everyone in the district process. There's everyone that has a piece of it. So thank you.
I would also say thank you, because I'm on finance and facilities. We had discussed that at the last meeting. I said, I know it's sometimes a very small amount, but just to make it known and, said out loud that we are looking at little things, this, that, and the other thing, and all those little things add up. And like Veronica said, it might not seem, it's not huge, and you can't say, it's $80 million difference, but it does make a difference, and people should know it. And so I appreciate it being said out loud. Thank you.
And if any board member, we're more than happy to workshop with you, sit down, pull this thing apart, over the next month, publicly displaying it for the community. We're happy to meet with any community member who wants to really sit down with this budget. I think once you really get into it, you realize how complex it really is. So just let us know. Happy to meet with you, spend some time with you, really tear the thing apart.
One of the, as you were talking, there's so many other, like you said, little things that we do. And again, it's not our department either, but like another thing that Mr. Almer did in his department over the summer was reduce some of our energy usage that got us rebates back, right? Like it might be $10,000, $14,000, but every little bit helps.
It makes a difference.
So there's all these little things that we do, like, okay, no one's here. We can ComEd reduce our output, right? Like our consumption, I guess is what I'm looking for. And gets a little rebate back. Yep. So there's all those little things that everybody's trying to do there. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sure. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
Strite,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
and Shaw.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve the press policy 121?
So moved. I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Garrettson, second by Ms. Lopez Caniva. Questions? These are the policies we went over.
These are the policies we went over last month. A lot of technical changes, a lot of language changes, simple word changes. Really nothing, major here.
Barring no questions?
No.
Roll call?
Strite,
Yes.
Garrettson,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes. Okay, I don't feel we need closed session this evening.
Yeah, that was really just, Dr. Shaw and I talked about it with a placeholder in case something came up, so you could seat Mr. Lencioni. Let's say in the last 4 days something came up. Seating Mr. Lencioni would allow him to be in your closed session. We don't have any closed session items for you.
Sounds good. Okay. All right, do I have a motion to end the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, are there any announcements? Sorry.
Oh, there's just your announcements. You've got them right there. You know what I mean?
I'm just trying
One
to
little
follow my
change
script
there.
here.
Gold Card is going to be on a Friday night. So, just letting you know some of these dates are a little bit different. And thank you to board members. I've talked to a number of board members. A lot of people have conflicts, but if there's a critical mass, I'll just talk to each one of you about October 27th curriculum night. Just maybe supporting Young Hearts for Life, maybe even doing a lunchtime ask the board kind of thing. We'll see, a couple people do have conflicts. Some people have to be parents at curriculum night. Others have their own curriculum night. So we'll get her done.
Dr. McBride, I just have a question about September 23rd. Is that the inaugural game for?
It is
girls' play?
not.
Okay.
I think their first game might be this Monday night at home in Flossmoor that had to delay their opening, their school opening.
Because of the storm.
But I believe the first game is this Monday night. I mean, who thought this? When I was a junior in high school, can you believe what they did? They let girls play soccer. I mean, people were outraged. But now my career has been long enough that I am watching girls play football. It doesn't get better than that.
No,
It's great.
no. True enough.
Okay. Now do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. O'Halloran. Who's the second?
Garrettson, I guess.
All right. Ms. Garrettson.
Whoever you need.
All in favor?
Aye.
Uh,